Hello, everybody. If it's Wednesday, it's Warhammer, and that must mean it's time for another episode of Warhammer Weekly. Joining me, as always, it's my own keeper of secrets. It's Tom. What's going on, buddy?
I will keep your secret.
Thanks.
Hey, hello, friends.
Thanks, Tom. Also joining us this week, someone who for a long time, he was following the fjords. He was part of the lodges. But recently, he has seen the light, the wonder, the gifts of the Dark Princess, and he's come over, and we're here. We're going to talk with him about it. It's Kenny. How you doing, Kenny? Good to see you, buddy.
Hey, guys. How you doing? I was surprised. I saw something, and it surprised me.
Sure. Yeah, well, it'll happen. It'll just come out of nowhere. Slaanesh will surprise you. So obviously Kenny is one of the two hosts of the Combat Phase podcast, which if you're not listening to, you really should be. The great work that Kenny does on Combat Phase, especially, but in other places or, sort of around, is you do a wonderful job of disseminating a massive amount of content from Black Library and make it consumable because it's just so much. And you actually break it down, give people good advice, talk about what should people be read, what should they not, what's the story. You interview the authors, you get the background on it. It's great stuff. So if you're into Black Library at all, it really is. Like if you're into that at all, if you're into that fiction and you're not listening to Kenny, you've made a mistake. You've gone wrong. Let me just say that.
That's fair.
Yep.
I endorse.
So I will link Combat Phase down below. Certainly go and check that out. But tonight, for our feature segment, we are going to, of course, be discussing the Dark Princess. We are going to be discussing Slaanesh in all of her glory, and it's going to be a wonderful time. Surprise, yeah. This is, and I purposely wanted to do this before a potential release. We'll talk about that as we get to it. I want to talk about the state now, and then we're going to talk about where we think they're going, and then we'll come back and do another show. After that, we'll see how our predictions lined up. But first, of course, the news. We got a little bit, not a lot, but we had some stuff.
I think we have quite a bit.
We have some stuff.
Okay, so we have the rumor engine. Let's start there.
Sure. I will share this pointless image. Here we go. All right, I've got it queued up. Got it queued up and ready to go. One of the most worthless rumor engines in a long time. Here we go.
You mean the Centipede? Chest plates?
There you go.
Yep. Looks like a Centipede chest plate to me.
I mean, okay. That could be one of 87 different things. Could be an insectoid thing for the Moon Clan thing, could be a Tyranid thing, could be 100 things.
It's Carapace-esque.
Yeah. It's Carapace.
It's not I've heard people say that, it's like the chest plate for the horse on what are the vampires?
Like the Blood Knights?
Blood Knights. It's not, because those are natural ridges. Those aren't metal ridges.
Sure, because you're saying because the hooks and cuts into the chitin. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. So it has to be something natural, is what I'll say. I think it's a larger centipede from the Grots.
Yeah, I mean, sure. Here's the thing. Okay. Cool.
Yep.
See, it looks very. I've wanted this to be Slaanesh for a while, and granted, this looks very Tyranid to me, but I think it might be like a piece of vegetation or something, something fun.
Oh, you're saying like a terrain piece, like a new terrain piece type of thing. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, I don't really believe that. I'm really kind of firmly with Tyranid on this one, but I'm gonna take it back to Age of Sigmar and say a terrain piase.
Do we have a Tyranid release in the wings? Do we think that a Tyranid release is coming?
Who the hell knows? I mean, there's Kill Team.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
They could throw everything.
Yeah.
The James Gunn Crocs are getting a release right now, so yeah.
Yeah, exactly. All the ancillary games make it impossible, right? Because exactly, is there a Tyranid release? I don't know. Maybe. Could they do something for a Kill Team or for a Rogue Trader or for a blah, 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 blah? Sure.
Yeah.
Or for Necromunda or for, you know what I mean? So
no, it's fair. It's fair.
Well, it is the nose hairs of a Gargant, a new Gargant army.
Wow, that's an impressive Gargant.
Mm-hmm. It is zoomed in. That's a nose hair.
Sure. It's you're saying super zoomed in, like a follicle. Yeah, I'll buy that.
Mm-hmm.
This is literally at 10,000 times zoom. Yeah.
Well, it's Battle Tome God Beast, so there you go.
Touche.
I like where your head's at. No, I mean that's just it. Like it's so little. It could literally be any of these things that you've just described. Sure.
Probably not a god beast follicle.
One day they're
No,
gonna
not that.
be like jerks. They're gonna have something like this, and then when we get the model, it's gonna be like the model's holding a portrait of this weird obscure thing. That's this. It'll have nothing to do with the model.
Sure. Like it's literally somebody with like a carapace shell shield.
Yeah, it'll
Like
be
it's
like
somebody who's killed. Something like this. Yeah. That also totally possible. Could be none of these things. That could just be a shield that like a goblin is holding or something. Sure.
Yeah, it's legit.
So all of these things are entirely possible. Who knows? All right. So that's
Warhammer Fest.
that. Warhammer Fest, man. Not as many big reveals for AOS as we were hoping.
Surprise!
But that's okay.
No reveals.
There was one thing, and we'll talk about it because there was some discussion.
Bull.
Yes. I've got that image queued up too. We'll shift over to that in a moment. But like, it did include slight shout out to that Cowboy Bebop Rogue Trader trailer, which was fantastic and I loved and was amazing.
It may have single-handedly
made you buy Kill Team. I know.
Made me buy Kill Team and cancel not one but two eBay auctions that I had put up earlier that day to liquidate all of my 40K stuff.
Sure.
And I saw that and was like, I'm going to make some bad decisions.
Sure. That's the right way to be. Look, Kill Team is the way to make bad decisions in 40K. At some point in time, we're going to do like a Kill Team beginner for AOS players show. Like we'll do that because it is such an easy dip in with just like 6 to 8 figures and go. My group's already been discussing doing it like 1 week out of our month. So it'll happen. But this does
may or may not have Kill Team relevant things on my desk as we speak.
Yeah, you got some terrain. But to me, this is very exciting. I was actually thrilled they didn't reveal much AOS at Warhammer Fest because that means we're primed. The pump is primed for Nova to be the big reveal, and that's
now you get to be there.
Yeah, I wanted to be there in person for it, so thumbs up. It's all winner for me. It's all like it's a week and a half difference in time, and now I get to see it in person. So, yay! But let's take a look at what they did after Warhammer Fest because I have that image queued up too. So, give me a moment here. We'll share up. Flaming Bull. There he is.
Chaos Wars. No.
So, well, okay. Here's what's fascinating about this, right?
Sorry, folks.
Yeah. So everybody sees the Flaming Bull, and immediately everybody has two thoughts, right? Yeah. Chaos Dwarves and Brayherds. Okay.
Right.
All right. Both fair guesses.
Yep.
And the my money was legitimately on some kind of weird endless spell supplement for the Chaos Dwarves army until today. Okay. And the reason for that is because this is exactly a spell from 4th edition Chaos Dwarf Magic.
Like, right. Exactly. Like the very description of a Hashut spell.
Yep. There was a Hashut spell in 4th edition or 4th edition, 3rd edition?
Yeah, the big hats.
One of those. Yeah.
Yeah. Whenever the cards, whichever one had the cards. I think that was 4th had the cards. My memory eludes me at the moment. But anyways, it had a Hashut card. And literally it says like the caster summons a bull from fire who charges forward across the table. It's a flaming bull and it runs over people. And like I originally did like a strength 4 hit or blah, 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 whatever. But it was like you read the flavor text of the description of casting the spell and it's this. Right? So.
And then Ben Johnson has to go and spoil it.
And then they said, no, Chaos Dwarves are still a fake army. Don't worry, everybody. It's fine. They're not real. We don't have to pretend like they are. And the Brayherd are coming because we got the Hammerhall Herald today of Beware the Mysterious. What is it? What was it? Curious Goats? Mysterious Goats?
Yeah. beware of suspicious goats.
Suspicious goats.
Yes.
Boy, they're just like telegraphing now. They're just shoving it up in your face. Like, hey, guess what?
Table tonight.
You got some Brayherd on your table tonight?
I got another one. I won an award at an event on Saturday, and I got another one of these.
Nice. That's awesome.
Totally unrelated.
So let's go back to this. So yes, we had the Hammerhall Herald spoiler today, showing us that we are in fact definitely going to have we're going to have the reveal next week. Like a week from now, you and I, Tom, are going to be talking about the upcoming Brayherd book, right?
Yep. And which means for those who are interested, like our show will be late next week because it'll be post reveal, right?
Yeah, but I think the reveal, I'll look at the time the session is, but I think the reveal is actually pretty early in the day. I think
is it?
Well, maybe not super early. I think it's like 7. I don't know. Okay. I need to look at the schedule.
Okay. Yeah, let me know for what time our show is going to be.
Yeah, well, so for everybody, it'll be like we'll be a little more fluid next week. The show will be immediately preceding the end of the reveal session at Nova. So there you go.
Yep.
By the way, here you go. It is Suspicious Goats. I brought up the image here so we can share this too.
Yeah,
there you go. Suspicious Goats. Wanted Suspicious Goats. Displaying seditious behavior, including but not limited to dark looks, carnivorous diet, rambunctious behavior, strange chanting, walking as unto a human, elf, or Duradin. There you go. So
go down. Scroll down.
Walking as unto a human, elf, or Duradin. Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, not on too.
I like dark looks.
Yeah.
All right. So yes, the day goats, they are coming. And we had talked before about the rumor of Brayherd. Like that was an established rumor that they were going to get one, but the feeling was generally that it was farther off, like maybe more in line with Dark Oath or something like that. And who knows, maybe it still is.
Well, we heard that there was a combined like Dark Oath Brayherd release, and then what the source came back and informed us is that actually things have been shuffled around.
Sure. So maybe they're just going to do the Brayherd book all on its own or whatever it is.
Well, right. And so we don't know that the Dark Oath are part of that thing anymore. And so the source that one of the sources that's fairly reliable, where did I put this image? I literally just had it open.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
They said that the Flaming Bowl spell is for Beastmen. They're getting a couple other books. They're getting a couple of others, so spells, and a book, similar to how Legions of Nagash allowed the various sub-factions into one Legions again, they believe. Nothing else, sadly. So spells and a book. And then that'll be this year, potentially even the next release, is the talk.
Okay. Yeah, I mean... Great. I would rather it stand on its own than be part of some kind of Dark Oath book. Like that's fine. I want both of those things to get their own attention. It's fine. It would be exactly the type of release that I wouldn't expect to get more actual models. You know what I mean? Like that wouldn't like in the way Legions released and didn't have any new models directly associated with it at the time. I feel like Brayherd would be the kind of thing that would do that. As long as we sort of recombined all these forces together.
Yeah, put the word back in there.
Well, yeah, exactly. Yes. Thank you. Yeah, I mean, Kenny, what would you want out of a Brayherd book? Like what? Like or not? I say Brayherd generically. Let's call it this. Let's call it what it is. Let's call this as we should. The Beasts of Chaos, right? Because that was the book title back when they first got their own split-off own book, The Beasts of Chaos. So what would you want out of your Beasts of Chaos book, Kenny?
I mean, it'd be great if they had the Thunderscorn and the Warherds. I want the Warherds definitely in there. I would like to be able to play my all Warherd army and then have an allegiance ability that's not chaos and be able to use my Minotaurs and my Gorgons and Cygors and Jabberslythe without having to have an ally. Yeah, I mean, new models would be great too, but I just think being able to use at least the Brayherd and the Warherds together would be a lot better, so I don't have to ally these guys in.
Yeah, agreed. Like that's it. Like that's really, I think, to me, the bar. Just give us a good way to actually combine these things. Now that being said, you can put some fun spins on it. right? Like in the same way that they did with the legions, where they had like the legion of this, legion of that, blah, 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 blah. I'm okay with that too. Like we can have different types of herds. You know what I mean?
I just want them to be honest about it and roll Skaven back in with them.
Get out of here. You get out of here. You are fake news. That is ridiculous. We are not some beastmen are knockoffs of us.
Okay? I don't know about that. Yeah. Of course, that's what you would say.
You're darn tootin'. What? Look, you got 3 different guys who are goats and some minotaurs. We have civilizations. We are more numerous than the counting of the stars in the sky.
They do.
We burrow through reality. You run around in the woods.
Both of them gather around rocks and have.
I don't want to hear it. Yeah, one is just a random rock in the woods. Ours are magic rocks that make super machines.
Theirs are magical rocks.
How many times did the Beastmen blow up the moon?
But we ambushed.
Quick question. How many times did they blow up the moon? Just wanting to check here. How many moon explosions have Beastmen got in there on the scoreboard? I'm saying it's a hot 0.
Well, we're humble.
How many times have the Beastmen killed Nagash? Oh, is that also a 0 on the board?
2 or 3.
Oh, it's so weird.
He's died so many times.
So look, we're not gonna. You've taken me down a rabbit hole here. Okay. At any rate, back to this. No, combining these, like I have a Beastman army that I'd honestly be excited to expand if I got a book like that. Like I think that'd be a fun little project. Like, cause I got probably about a 2,000 point force. Mainly, again, like you said, Kenny, focused on war herds. Right. I've got like I have 5 Doom Bulls. I love Doom Bulls. They're like one of the coolest dudes ever. So yeah, man. I think that'd be a great way to do it. Have like whether you've got a shaman caster or a beast lord or like a Doom Bull leading it, and kind of make that set the flavor of the army. Right, the sort of the nature of what it is. One of them plays horde, one of them plays like more of a destructive kind of aggressive force elite, and one of them plays more cagey, like the shaman led one. That'd be cool.
The war herds are not bad. I mean, I played them a few times. I have like I can do 2,000 points if I bring in an endless spell, if I remember to bring the model, or I just am down and have 1 or 2 command points.
Sure,
I've done really well with them too. You know, like it's 3 units of 6. I've done just for fun. 3 units of 6, and then I've done a different, like all 3 of the different equips, like you know, the one with the great weapon, one with the double, one with an axe and a shield, and then 2 Cygors and a Gorgon, and then a Jabberslythe, and just had them run around, a couple Doom Bulls, and they actually do pretty good. It was the Twisting Catacombs, that Kickstarter. I got those beautiful Minotaurs, and I was like, okay, I want to do this now. Sure. These models are boss.
Yeah. So there's potential there. I will be very interested to see what we're talking about next week with exactly what this is, or if we even know. Chances are they won't actually tell us exactly what it is. We'll just get like, you know, the hints.
A video.
Yeah, exactly. But that's okay.
I don't even know what that would look like, because if there's no models, then it's literally like the endless spells in a book.
Sure. We'll get a video of like the endless spells and beasts running around it, and then it'll end on the book. The book title.
I don't know about that. I think what you'll probably see is, I think Grotz will be the big release, and they'll be like, oh, by the way, next week, beasts, and show the endless spells in the book or something.
Look, if we got 2, that would be amazing. Like that'd be fantastic. Yes for that. All right. So what other news items do we have? Moving on past the beast, because we'll be talking about this plenty next week, I assume.
Bray Herds. Oh yeah. So Forge World decided that the bottom line wasn't yielding enough.
Sure.
And so in their new fixed currency update that they did, their super helpful currency update, they increased the worldwide cost of their product 20 to 50%.
Yeah, so the prices went up everywhere outside the UK, is basically, but especially I think Australia and New Zealand got whacked by this.
Like they took a very aggressive dollar to pound ratio conversion and decided that this is the new price. So yeah.
So your Greater Exalted Demon of Slaanesh is now $7,200 dues.
Sorry, Australia. I like to put things in perspective. Last night I was pricing. I may or may not have been pricing the like the 40K like buildings, like the sculpted resin Realm of Battle tiles. Sure. You know, like the buildings and like the generators and all that built into them. And I was like, oh, you know, I could maybe spring for something like this. And they're like 96 pounds each. And so like a little over 100, 120-ish. And I thought, oh, I might be able to do that. And then I was like, oh, they had all 6 of these for like or just over $500. And I'm like, that's not terrible. That's pretty good. And then today they're over 700. And I'm like, nope, that is out the window. No, thank you. Hard pass.
Okay. So that changed quickly.
Yeah, from yesterday when I was pricing those things to today, the new reality.
Yeah, I looked at it today too. It's like, whoa.
Yeah. So those of you that were thinking about starting a fake army, you can just stop that now.
Look, it doesn't matter. Chaos Dwarves aren't real. They're a fake army, so it's fine. It's no big deal.
Apparently. It's a thing.
Okay. So, yeah, any other... I think that's everything. Do we have any other news items? We do. Hold on. We have one. Well, go ahead. I was going to say we definitely have some other stuff.
So I think we missed one, like, back in March.
That's in March? Yeah, that's... Whoa, you're going way back on this one, but okay.
It's deep cut. It's relevant for us because if it proves to be true... so historically, they've done a terrain release in November.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to mention, like somebody brought it up in a thread and I tracked it down, and there was rumors last March for a terrain release in November with like even some images and like actual like unit things. So I wanted to include that so that we could see it. And so let me do a screen share real quick and I'll show you what we potentially have coming down the pipeline.
Okay.
And I'm not going to like Rickroll us or anything.
I mean, I'm very fascinated by this, that you decided 5 months later to return to this story, but
no, I missed it. I missed it initially. So I want to mention it. So one is a Veil of Giron potentially, which is a boxed forest set. So 4 Citadel Woods potentially for 99. So basically, right now it's 3 for 99. So they're going to throw in an extra one in a like a uniform shelf box. A munitions hub potentially with 12 containers, 36 barrels, 48 crates, and 2 servo haulers for 206. The Thermic Plasma Nexus, which is a whole bunch of like all of the conduits, some furnaces, stuff, 206, and then finally the Desolated Township, which is 6 Azurite ruins in one of the objective sets for 132.
Okay.
I'd forgotten about that, yeah.
So, and then a bunch of paint sets are coming as well, and like new bundled paint sets.
I want my new building that's 2 layers. It actually has like ledges and floors.
What are you talking about in AOS?
Yeah.
That'd be awesome, wouldn't it? Unfortunately, we don't see anything about that yet. There's been rumors for like a Stormkeep. Yeah, and you can. Yeah.
The Azurite ruins you can put together, so it takes a little bit of work. It's not like they don't just like drop together, but you can do it. All right. Okay, well, that's a heck of a sudden recall of that, but that's cool. The other thing I wanted to mention was Wargames Con, man. The results from Wargames Con. So
Austin.
Yeah, out there. So James Sutherland sent us some results from that. It looked like, sounded from everything I heard, it was a very fun tournament. I think he said, how many people was there? 60 some all told, right?
Yeah. I saw at least 54, I think, on the sheet, on the score sheet.
Yeah, 64 competitors. One of the final tables had both Skaven and some Bone Splitters. The Bone Splitters won. Sadly, the villains won. But that's okay. The relevant part of that story, so Nurgle took best overall. The Bone Splitters ended up in second place with best general. And third place, shout out to Dan Norris with his Moon Clan Grots, who won, who tied for coolest army and best sportsmanship. How about that?
Pre-book Moon Clan Grots.
Pre-book coming in with the third. Boom! You show them, buddy. Show those people what's up. Those goblins doing work.
For those of you that don't know or didn't see the show, Dan is one of the Warhammer heroes that got recognized last year at Adepticon by GW. He's a great guy. He was on the show with Jind earlier in the spring.
Yep. And super nice guy. That's a wonderful, like, I love that he did it, played an army he loved, played it well, got the scores, and got there in 3rd place. Like, that's fantastic. And then behind him was some Khorne, some Seraphon, Nighthaunt, Nurgle, Daughters of Cain, and then in 10th place, Gutbusters. Gutbusters in the top 10, buddy. What is going on in Texas? It's a crazy world down there. We got goblins and ogres top 10ing. I love it. Fantastic.
I don't even know how to respond to that.
It's the OG.
Clearly,
it ties right into my pick of the week this week, so I'll talk about that. If you're a fan of the Gutbusters, the name for number 1, Michael. I don't know how to say your last name. Vaganos. I don't know. So I'm sorry, Smith. Michael. I'm bad at last names. Vagenos. Michael Vaganos, who had Nurgle and won best overall. So there you go. He was playing Magakin. Seems cool. I have some lists somewhere. All the lists got shared out to AOS Shorts, where all the lists are compiled. As well, the information is in the TGA thread. I'll throw the link to the TGA thread into the show notes. So if you want to go check it out, see all the winners, all the names are there, their scores. You can also find the tournament pack so you can see how it was scored and everything in there. So there you go. Oh, there you go. Yes. The number 1 Nurgle had 120 Marauders, 80 Plague Monks, 1 Guo, 1 Rodigus, and 2 Rotbringer Sorcerers.
Yeah. Yeah, you know why?
100 bodies.
You know why all those Marauders were there?
Because it's 120 bodies?
Because they grant +1 to hit on a 4-up, and with their Blades of Putrefaction, they'll trigger on 5s.
Oh, that's neat. That's cool. I'd also heard that people really like having the Herald, the dude that you like, around on them, because then they basically become little, pseudo plague bearers, right?
Yeah, they have that 5-up save. They're 5-up base save, and they have a 5-up after save. Then, yeah, right. I mean it's a neat little combo. Like, it's not bad. And
Marauders are still pretty competitively priced. In many ways, they've never left. They've always offered the same great chaos marauding value at economical prices. So that's really great.
The only penalty, the only pain is having to paint
120 Marauders.
Yeah, or convert 120 Marauders. Yeah,
they need a new kit.
They do need a new kit. The old, they look like bad rejected He-Man action figures. Like, sorry, but that's what is this? They need to be remade a la Blood Reavers, because the Blood Reavers are good looking Marauders.
Right. Like, that's what I converted my Marauders out of. Yeah.
But then if you're doing them as Nurgle, you got to shave all the Khorne symbols off and stuff like that. You got to go the distance. So,
and I did.
There you go.
It takes a lot of time.
It takes time. So there you go. So congratulations to everybody there. From everything I heard, it was an awesome tournament. So yeah, I'll put the links down there so you can check all that out.
Yes.
Rock and roll. Obviously, coming up next week is, as has been mentioned many times, is Nova. I look forward to seeing what shows up there, because that's going to be a very big tournament. Chuck is obviously running that, the standard GT, and then there's also the big narrative event going throughout the whole weekend as well, which is run by Aaron and a couple of his friends. So there's going to be 2 big different things going on, and they've really leaned into the narrative. Like, they have, it's all weekend long. They have meetings, they pull people together. Like, you're in sort of teams, and the teams have little meetings, and political backstabbing and stuff goes on in between games. They have big ships this year to do sea battle stuff on. He was showing some of the pictures. It's amazing.
They are leaning into the narrative, and it's fantastic.
It really is. No joke. Both of those. I know Chuck got so much terrain ready to go for this, so he's going to have some really great tables. The narrative event will be fantastic. It's really going to be an awesome weekend. I am pretty excited for next weekend. So there you go. Which next weekend will start on Wednesday. That's when the weekend officially starts next week.
Sure.
It's an early weekend. I look at it, the next weekend is only a week away. So let's turn to some pick of the week. Kenny, what would you like to share with everybody out there?
Well, I had some ideas, but it's Slaanesh, and there's issues with pronouns and hygiene. So instead, I'm gonna just do one that's for Age of Sigmar, and it's kind of shameless. It's not my show. It's kind of shameless, but it's the Facehammer episode that's out that talks about Midwest Meltdown. And since we're talking about Slaanesh and it's the army I played there, it was interesting to listen to Domus talk about the event and Brad, Brilliant, who won the event. But they also bashed him. And then, of course, after he gets off the audio, they bash him some more. And I appreciated that. So, in a loving, good way.
Sure.
But it was interesting later, if you listen to it after Brad leaves, and it's just Domus talking to Russ, they talk about running an event and some different ideas doing it competitively and what they would do with secondary objectives. And it's actually really interesting. So even if you don't want to hear the first part and you just go to like the last half hour, there's actually, in all seriousness, some really good stuff there at the end. The episode is good overall, but I really enjoyed that. So I moved.
No, I'm super keen on secondary objective. It's the reason I love schemes and that aspect at NashCon. It's the reason I love the way that like Herner does his tables at the holy events, because I think that having more interesting secondary objectives that are worth part of the points, so you can't so the settings aren't just basically major, like the way the stuff is written in the main book of like major victory. There are very few scenarios that actually allow for minor victories. Right. And so as a result, it's why I really love the way David does it at NashCon, where winning the major victory is only part of the points. And then the scheme, the secondary objective, whatever you want to call it, is the rest of the points, right? So to do both, to get max points, you got to do both. And what that ends up doing is splitting the field out more, right? So it's not just like, okay, this whole group of people are on all majors and this whole group of people are on all minors. And at the end of 5 games, you've got like a bunch of people who are all tied. Nope. That doesn't happen because you get this much more granular breakdown by having that. So, yeah.
Yeah, they even go over the idea of like getting to get your secondary, then the other person can't get theirs. So there's some interesting little dynamics they talk about. It's theorizing for events that they might do, but it's just, I found it pretty interesting.
That's cool. I'll link it down below. Tommy, what do you got, buddy?
Yeah, I don't think we've promoted this, so I want to get it out there. So there's a fairly new podcast that's out there, done by our friend of the show, Jacob Berry, and Joe Pagano, called Rage of Sigmar. And it's like an hour of them just like shouting and cussing at each other and making fun of one another, and occasionally talking about Stormcast, occasionally talking about Warhammer. And I've enjoyed it. Like, I love that it's a callback to the post, like the new Age of Sigmar days, where like there was that Rage of Sigmar Facebook group where everybody was like raging against. Because Joe's own story follows that. Like, Joe had like gotten basically like written off AOS and has recently come back in. And so like he was in that group that like cast away and was uninterested in AOS, and he is kind of readopted back in. And so they processed some of that in the first episode. It's just, it was enjoyable to listen to, and I wanted to share it with everybody.
All right, take it. I'll link that down below. What's the name of the podcast? The actual name of the podcast, since you never said that.
I did. Rage of Sigmar.
Okay, there you go. You didn't say it clearly. You said you sort of buried it amongst there. Yes.
Okay.
I wanted to make sure people knew what to search for.
Rage of Sigmar.
Right on.
Yes.
All right. So for myself, I'm going to give a shout out to our buddy Doom and Darkness, who is currently on vacation. He's out there. He's lounging on a beach somewhere right now, probably sipping a Mai Tai. So I hope you're having a good vacation. I hope he's feeling better. But I'm going to shout him out and say he just did. You can check out, I'll link to he put up all 3 videos for his bat reps, where he talks through the 3 games he played at the Southern Impact tournament in Adelaide, Australia, where he was running his Gutbusters. And it's just a bunch of ogres, just some, as he puts it, some dad bods doing some work. So It's a great series. He ended up taking third place. It's a one-day event, but he ended up getting third place because he was on 2 major wins and a minor loss. Pretty good. He never had a major loss. And yeah, the first game against the Stormcast has a wonderful twist.
Surprise!
A wonderful twist at the end. Yes, that I couldn't have been more thrilled to see occur. So I'll link to the first one in that series. I'm sure that then YouTube will do the work from there to take you through the next 2 games, as it tends to autoplay properly in that kind of case. All right, so check that out. If you want to see the fat boys go to work, it'll warm your heart. All right, let's talk about some hobby time, guys. Kenny, what's on your table? We mentioned it earlier, but what are you working on, man?
Well, this lovely box of Blood Feast Gorgers here. I need a third Sigor more than I need a third Gorgon. So he's getting built, and I've actually been working on some the models that are on Battle Cats. I kind of buckled with the release of 2nd edition, and all my dwarves don't have wizards. So I needed something, and then once you pop.
Sure. Hold on. Whoa, wait a minute. Let's roll that one back. Did I just hear you say that the father of the Fire Slayers rolled up Stormcast because they didn't have wizards? Oh. GW, please take note. I rest my case.
Somebody's got to carry the beer. And it goes so nicely on the back of these beautiful little cats. So.
It does. No, I don't disagree. I have 6 in the mail right now as we speak.
Good Lord.
I like them. I'm sure I'll play them at some point. But we had a narrative event over the weekend, and I realized I was the only one that didn't have a wizard or a priest, so I couldn't use the realm gates. And it was a narrative event, but I couldn't actually activate the realm gate.
Hold on. Pause. I'm going to put a pause on your story here real quick. This is one of my least favorite terrain changes. I hate this more than the Citadel Wood thing. Really, I mean this. Because we use the realm gates all the time on my table, okay, like for our basement games. Mm-hmm. Here's my suggested fix, okay? So the way realm gates work now, they used to have really silly rules where they would like explode and do damage and whatever. They were sort of way too complicated for what they needed to be. Now they're very simple in that you can teleport a unit through them and it's reliable, but you have to have a wizard or a priest near them to activate them, right? And then the unit has to be within a certain distance. I say to that, silliness. So at my table, unreliable realm gates only. That is how we play. Realm gates can be used by anybody, but you still roll a die for every model in the unit, and on a 1, they die. Don't need a wizard or a priest to activate it. They're always on, but they're dangerous. Like traveling through the warp is meant to be. That's the way to play realm gates. Do it on your own table in your basement. I guarantee it's more fun. The number of times that I have seen one of us send like a single special character through there, like somebody gets bold and sends their Great Unclean One or something like that through there, and they're like, it's fine, just don't roll. Oh, I rolled a 1. He's dead. The number of times that happens is worth it all on its own. So that is my fix. That wizard or priest rule is what I say to that. So I'm sorry. Please continue.
Oh, there was confusion because we were playing it, and I had read the rule change. Like, okay, this is kind of weird. And then basically what ended up happening is I was playing. So this was a surprise. In my game too, I was playing. Do you remember Meal? Meal for Bulin? He's like he came out. He was playing. He's been he's played 6 games of AOS, and 3 of those were at this event. So I was playing against him. And we were having the realm gates you could walk through as of game 2 because it was all narrative to another table. And so as Archeon came up before the Fire Slayers did kill him, a little realm portal popped out of the realm gate and tapped him on and said, hello, hand to dust. But he had his realm shield thing, and he actually failed it. But then Kairos was like, "Nah, I want you to live." So it was a fun little chain of events. It involved Brendan, the father of Nagash and Death, and former champion Meal and all this kind of stuff. But in the end. The Fire Slayers, but I didn't have a priest, so he offered to send me through the realm gate, and which I thought would have been nice, but he forgot he got a little too excited, and he came up and he killed the guy instead. He's like, oh, I was supposed to send you through there. I'm sorry. So it would be nice to have, something that could activate. But yes, I agree with you on the terrain change. It's kind of silly, and I don't think we're going to use it too much unless we're forced to.
Yeah. So I'm with that, and that sounds awesome. I like that. You got to watch out for those hands of dust, man. They fly through portals all the time. Somebody's always trying to reach around and just see what they can find on the other side. Nagash is sneaky.
Surprise!
Surprise!
Surprise! Yeah,
Yes.
that's not what you want to find. All right, so Tom, what's on your table? Well, we saw some of it. You're working on some sci-fi terrain.
Yeah, I figured I would do some assembling of some Sector Mechanicus, so that when my stuff gets here, I can set things up and build a table. But I'm still working on our project, and so I'm working on a cauldron and making some progress and trying some weird stuff with like lighting and texture that I don't normally do. There is more gloss, like high gloss shine on this model than I've ever put on any other model in my entire career. And so I don't know what it's going to look like. So sorry, Vince, this may not go well for the painting aspect of the competition. So I'm going to run with it, and we're going to see what happens. So
you can always stamp somebody with it.
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah, it is a surprise.
Just blind our opponents if it's that high reflective. Like, that's what I expect you to do. Be like moving the model in the sunlight to blind them, and then boom. That's when we sneak in for the win.
Yeah,
right,
so I'm just I'm experimenting is what I would say.
Good.
So it'll be interesting.
Tom, that literally just lifts my heart to hear that, because so for those of you who don't know, Tom and I obviously talk a lot off the air, and Tom is a person who likes to do his hobby in a very particular way. He has sort of his methods, and he likes to stick to them, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But I try to push Tom a lot to get out of his comfort zone, to experiment. And, sometimes he does. It's not like he's completely opposed to it. He's grown tremendously as a hobbyist. But it makes me happy to hear you playing around and experimenting with different stuff. That's great, man.
Yeah, I mean, it's not in my comfort zone at all for painting.
Sure.
And because I like guaranteed results on like an effect that I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And I don't like to tinker on on final models. Like that's not where you play around with stuff like that for me. And so we'll do it. And if I throw our painting score, sorry, Vince.
It's all right. I would rather lose with you trying that kind of stuff than win otherwise. I really mean that. Like, that's not important to me. You having an army that you experiment with and are proud of and like the way that things did or learned things is far more valuable to me, man. And I don't care.
Well, thank you.
I'm not trying to be like, I'm just trying to be like, seriously. I mean, I show up to that tournament to roll dice with you. We don't get to play a team tournament on the same side, but once a year, man. It's one of my favorite tournaments we go to for that reason. So, there you go. Surprisingly, that's why I'm there.
That's what I'm trying. And so we'll see. And because I'm having to do a lot more like outside my comfort zone, it slows me down. Like, I'm less motivated because there's an uncertainty there.
Sure.
And so, so I'm mixing in terrain building in the middle of that.
Sure. You got time. It's all right. We got some time. For myself, it's been a very productive hobby week. Obviously, I finished up my last piece for Nova over the weekend, and then I finished up my Warlord. Although what I shared my Warlord out there, and she's a great model. She's the Nua from Celestial, which is this. She's this one, this Medusa chick. That's what she is. That. And she's actually quite big. It's hard to tell in the picture, but according to the back of this, she is 88 millimeters tall. So she's like I said, she's about the size of an Avatar of Cain, a little less than 4 inches tall. And now, I'm prepping up all my stuff for Nova, for teaching, for classes. And in the meantime, I'm working on a robot. So we've got the second one of these that I've done. I love these little robots. They're so much fun because they're quick and relatively easy. They're much faster than their big brothers. But his armor is all down here laid out on a piece of paper in front of me so I can work on that. But the fun thing about trying this guy was he used, of course, some of my standard stuff like oil washes and oil paints to do weathering and stuff. But also, he was my first try to use this stuff. The Metalsmith paints from Badger.
They have to mix.
Yeah. They're sort of they're kind of like the build your own metallic set. They're the Legos of miniature paints is how I would describe them. So I'm gonna have a full review coming out on them. I thought this was probably the best chance to do it because obviously this guy has a big metal frame with with both, sort of steel and bronze and gold on him. So he'll be a good chance. Once I've experimented with different permutations and mixes and color stuff on him and I'm all done, the review will come out this weekend. So they are interesting is what I will say. That's my preview. They are very interesting. They are certainly a unique paint system. And I would say paint system rather than paint set, because many times I did refer back to the instructions while using these paints. And if I'm reading instructions about paint, we have gone into new territory here. Okay. So that's what I'm working with. So it's a very busy hobby week as we prep for Nova and get everything ready and still do a fun project for myself as well. But guys, are you ready to talk about Slaanesh?
Not really.
Well, get ready because it's happening. Much as with all of Slaanesh, it only takes a little. Once I think this is the thing. Once you play Slaanesh the first time, it just draws you in. That's what happens. And here is I want to give the overview of the current state of the army. Here's my feeling. I look for both of your point of views as well. My feeling is right now, the army is speed kills, like especially on the demonic side, right? It is so fast. It has some of the fastest things in the game, like on the table, bar teleporting, which, by the way, actually makes it faster because teleporting often has distance restrictions, right? Like you have to show up.
You have a 9-inch out. Yeah.
Right. Whereas your movement only has a 3-inch restriction. Right. And in a world where cogs exist, seekers can like, it is not, I shouldn't say reliably, it is fully possible for seekers to clear 40 inches in a round of movement. That's a number that can happen, right? You have a lot of like 14-inch, 16-inch movement in the army. You have a lot of ability to just be super fast. So it's very quick. It's an army that packs a pretty good amount, again, on the demonic side especially. It packs a pretty good amount of like Neg 1 Rend because your base troops have Rend. And multiple attacks with Rend 1. So it does well in sort of against other moderate to lightly armored foes because of the attacks. They make a lot of attacks with the potential for generating more. And on the mortal side is where you can kind of find your anvils because you can get to things like, you can go to your old standbys of like Chaos Warriors and Chaos Knights and stuff like that, right? So you still have access to those. Chaos Warriors, famously, reliably great anvil unit. So even in Slaanesh, they're still a pretty good anvil, having a decent save and having the ability to still have a mortal wound buff, right? Now, overall, though, especially on the demonic side, my summation for them right now would be this. They are bad Daughters of Cain with really good summoning.
Not only that, did you read the FAQ that came out regarding the pain summoning points?
Which one?
That mortal wounds don't count for racking up.
Yeah. You can't get them out of you don't get them out of the spells you deal or whatever, or sure. That's okay. That is so irrelevant. They said that, and I promise you, we'll talk about magic when we get a little deeper into this, but I assure you, magic is not a thing that matters when you're playing Slaanesh, especially on the demon side. You might as well just forget the magic phase exists for anything except occasionally arcane bolting and or maybe mystic shielding something pointlessly. Or realm spells if those are in play. Thumbs up. You get to cast magic again now. Isn't that exciting? All right. Kenny, what about you, man? What's your summation? You played him a bunch. You played him at Midwest. What's your feeling after running them? How do you summarize your experience with them?
Are we doing pronoun forgiveness tonight? Is it okay?
Yes.
Okay. Right,
sure.
No
because look, we'll be fluid with this. It's obviously that is one of the things with Slaanesh, she, he. I always, when I type it, I put the S in parens and say she, right? Because, it's Slaanesh, but sure, whatever you want.
The army is extremely fast, which, coming from somebody who played dwarves to that was like going from, like a Hugo to a Ferrari. I was telling you before, I was like, oh,
right.
Boom, you're across the table. But I feel that the variety, having played it for a bit, tried what I thought would make sense with the units, and then kind of explored some of the mortal and mixing the two together, I feel that it does give you a really good variety of units, and does give you the combat. I have a shooting phase, but who needs that when you can just get it right across the table? But I think that there's a psychological impact too, like the threat, the perceived threat, when people know how fast you are, and when you just go for board control and you move like that, that's very powerful. And then when they got the new summoning, not only, I mean, it's charming and whimsical as well, so we have that on Warhammer, as disturbing, as it is, but I love how they actually get the point. The depravity point system is great. But I feel like that really gave them a toolbox that they needed, and
Yep.
I think it's in a really good spot now. And when we get the new book, and then if we get a special sub faction, which I think we might get, then I think that's even in a much better spot. So basically, with the exception of Fiends, I'm going to just keep building my collection up.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because a lot of the good
Fiends,
stuff. Yeah, the Fiends are terrible. Fiends are just.
Find out.
I mean, I have a big pack of them because a long time ago, somebody sold a bunch of them on eBay and I just went in and bought all of them. Like they sold them off cheap. So I bought a ton of them, but they're terrible. I mean, they're utter trash. Maybe we'll get a relaunch of those, a la what they did with the Beasts of Nurgle, right? Only hopefully they'll be good.
Yes.
But the thing about it is, you've got like your Slaanesh getting started or whatever is still relevant. It's 5 Seekers, which you could easily turn into Hellstriders if you wanted, right? Like it's a simple conversion way to use your Seekers as Hellstriders. Just make a little whip, and that's pretty much good to go. You make little whips for them. Not that the Hellstriders are bad kits. I like my army to look more unified. Then suddenly there's random Spartan dudes.
Well, there's a whip, there's a way.
That is true. That is absolutely Slaanesh's theme song, but she means it a little differently than what the orcs meant. Yeah, the goblins meant that. Here's a slight funny story. I was walking through an airport recently on business travel, and I was walking toward the terminal, and some people were walking away toward baggage claim, and there was a whole family, and one of the young kids said, where's mom? Oh, she's walking that way. She'll find us. There's a way. And then the other sister said, where there's a whip. And then the other girl started singing, there's a way. And then the whole family started singing, where there's a whip, there's a way, as they walked through the airport. And I was like, wow, all right, good on you. I'm glad to see that apparently young kids are still being exposed to that Rankin and Bass classic. So that made me very happy.
Were you in Vegas when this happened?
No, this was our nation's capital, actually.
Delightful.
But anyways,
this is the advantage of having children, Vince, is you get to indoctrinate kids into your favorite things.
I guess. Yeah. So, I mean, we'll get into the nuances of the army, but certainly for me, I think with them they are good right now because of what they can do. There's a lot of bright spots in the force, but it's still shallow. Right. What it lacks is exactly what you will get out of a book. So we'll talk about future predictions at the end. They're not great yet. They're not highly competitive yet, but they are darn fun to play, man. I will say, I don't know, Kenny, was your experience with them ultra fun? I have literally had some of the most fun I've ever had in Warhammer playing my Slaanesh when I play them.
It was, and you know what? There were opportunities like in our round 2 at Midwest when when he went first with Nagash, and all the things that were supposed to happen failed, which I understand because it happens to me all the time. And all of a sudden, I'm like, I actually have a shot. I'm not going to do it, but I have a shot of with the speed of being able to turn this around all of a sudden, and those possibilities make it fun. But I've had a lot of surprises with the army. It's fun to follow around with Deepkin and get back in my belly. I mean, that's always fun. If you haven't done it, I would try it. The players love that. It's a fun army, and I like that you can you don't have to do fully demon or fully mortal. Like it can be kind of forgiving if you want to play with the bows. But yes, we do need some more tools, and that's going to come in a book or two.
Which we'll talk about. You've got a theory. I like your theory.
That's more.
All right. Hey, okay. So let's begin. Let's start at the top. Let's talk about the allegiance ability itself. Okay. So before we get into the force, before we talk about the units, we need to talk about what it means to be part of Slaanesh. And Slaanesh is interesting because it doesn't have one allegiance ability; it has 3. Right. So we have our seekers, our invaders, and our pretenders. Right. And obviously these are relevant because these came out of the missing Slaanesh, and these sort of 3 factions developed. Seekers are seeking after where Slaanesh is. The pretenders, the leader of that force, is pretending to be either Slaanesh or a scion of Slaanesh, and the the invaders are like rival, powerful people who are going in and conquering in the name of Slaanesh. Right? They're all that sort of thing. Okay, so we have 3, but we actually only have 1 because only one of them is good. That is my shot across the bow right now. The only one you ever play is Pretenders. The other ones are junk.
So are you prepared when the narrative moves on for that one to evaporate?
Yeah, sure. It's fine. Like, if it happens, like, yes, you're saying, like, if I get new allegiance abilities, sure.
No. Like, only the invaders and those persist, and the good one goes away because the pretenders can't pretend anymore because Slaanesh is back.
Well, then it would be like, there wouldn't be seekers anymore either because they wouldn't seek after Slaanesh, because if Slaanesh is back, we don't need to seek him. I'm not seeking after you, Tom. You're here. If you go missing, I'll have to seek you.
Maybe they don't know that he's back yet.
Who knows?
You see where this is coming in?
There you go.
We'll get there.
But sure, like, so breaking these down, let's do the quick rundown. Here we go. Pretenders, the good one. Okay. Your general has 2 command traits instead of 1. I don't know of anybody else who has this ability to double dip on command traits. It may be somebody else, but this is the only thing I can think of.
I think it's unique.
And in addition, you can reroll hit rolls of 1 for melee and missile weapons used by friendly Pretenders units that have 10 or more models when they're selected to shoot or fight. Fantastic. Wow. Army-wide, all the time, not within range of your general, just that's a thing you have now. And by the way, it is very hard to get Daemonette's bonuses, and you really want to hit. And they have a, like, on 5s or on 6s, this thing happens. So any kind of re-rolling thing is good because it's more chances to fish for 5s or 6s. So, like, you have an awesome general. You've buffed your good commander, and you've buffed all your units, whether that be like a bunch of Chaos Warriors or Marauders or Daemonettes. They're all going to benefit from re-rolling 1s to hit.
Yep.
So that's great. A+. Fantastic. Love it. Want more of it. Because it's Slaanesh. You always want more of it. All right. Seekers. The one that sounds good, but until I read the end. Here we go. Add 1 inch to the move characteristic and charge moves. Both. Okay. So +1 to charge and 1 to your base move. Mini cogs. Right? Of all models in the Seeker's host. Add 2 inches instead to both if their move characteristic is 10 or more. Full cogs. They've gone full cogs. Okay.
Never go full cogs.
Oh, you go full cogs. However, units in the host that are within 12 inches of the enemy in the charge phase must attempt to charge if able, and must complete that charge if they roll high enough. Immediately bad. You cannot, like, it's cool to be so super fast, but, like, your army is very fragile, right? Like, especially the more you lean into demons, the more fragile you get.
And you have to control the speed of combat.
Right. And, like, you need to be engaging where you should be. And the problem is, like, you don't want your Hellstriders charging into an enemy because they happen to roll hot and then just getting murderized, right? Like, you have a lot of easy chaff in this army that shouldn't be charging. You need to control and pick your fights. You have a lot of ability to pick your fights in this army. You're fast, you're mobile. We're going to talk about some tricks later. Being forced to charge is such a kneecap across your army. You know, somebody mentioned this is like Haywo Twitch mentioned that this is how Stonehorns act. And I think that's terrible for them. But at least it's not every unit in the army, which this is. Like, wow.
It's I mean, I don't make the charges anyway, but
you just rely on the fact that you fail to roll, so it's never a forced charge for you.
That's why the Pretenders are so good. I mean, so the Seekers was the first one I did as I was like trying to 3 out, and then it was so like you get your first car, and then I tried the Invaders, and that was like, all right, I will never drive that weird Croatian, like hybrid thing again. We'll just put it over there, and then I settled on the Pretenders. I'm like, here we go, a very very nice stylish sports car.
Absolutely.
But yeah, the you have to charge thing really does put a crimp at things.
Yeah, the problem with Slaanesh right now is it's very much a finesse army, right? That you have to very carefully control the pieces of, and having your pieces go run wild and go Hulkamaniac is not the right answer. Like if you were Khorne, fine, okay, like cool, I get it, but that's no. All right. So, and then finally, yes, you mentioned the Invaders. What used to be, I would argue, one of the best pre-AOS 2, that then became hot garbage as soon as AOS 2 dropped. So previously, so bad. Previously, what was awesome about Invaders was that you got 3 generals and all could use their command abilities. Well, in the world of AOS 1, that was a startlingly unique and powerful ability, right? Yep. To have 3 different generals who could all fire off command abilities. Now that's not special. Everybody can use their command abilities, and moreover, every one of them requires a stupid command point to use anyways. So you're dealing on a limited resource in a force that has 0 battalions. 0. We won't be discussing battalions tonight at all as part of this show because there are none to discuss. Wow. Yeah, there are a hot 0.
The only one that existed
got
GW broke
out of existence.
Yeah, because of the Everchosen. Like it's not playable in 2,000 points.
So what I would suggest with your handbook here is what's good about the Invaders is if you want to have your book down on your hobby table, but you need to put something down, then you can just set it right there over top of the Invaders entry. That way you're still holding your book open, but you're not missing anything important. So
I like how you're thinking.
That's why I like how they have it at the bottom there.
Yeah, you could just, that whole bottom of the page is irrelevant.
Yeah, paper.
What it does now is you can have up to 3 generals rather than 1. And only 1 still gets a command trait. And they're all considered to be your general when they use a command
for extended range. Because if you remember that, like a lot of command abilities are like 9 inches from a hero or 18 from your general. Now all of them are 18.
Yeah, this would be more relevant if any of the Slaanesh command abilities only worked if the person was the general, but
sure.
They don't have any of those. So, okay. Like,
I'll bet Legions.
Not even anyone turns on.
I'll bet Legions of Nagash wish they had that.
Right, sure, yeah, like or whatever, or Daughters of Cain. Like I would.
Oh man.
Oh boy. Yeah. For 3 generals, yes. Now we're talking. But
Marathi, Slaughter Queen. Oh,
yeah. Obviously, yes. It's Marathia, Slaughter Queen, and your Medusa, so you can still have your Medusae. But anyway,
this is where they got it from. See,
there you go. Yeah, that's where they learned this.
Well, they didn't learn it. That's the problem.
They should have. Go back, climb back inside Slaanesh until you pick up this trick.
Come on, Marathi.
Yeah. So, all right. So that's what it is. I mean, to me, Pretenders is the clear winner. It's just great. And the 2 command traits is great because let's talk about command traits real quick. We're going to come back to summoning.
Builder actually has this now too. War Scroll Builder was recently. So they have they actually, when you make your army, it actually has it in there and everything. So it's nice.
So what's incredible about the command traits, so often we look at like the command traits and the artifacts and we're like, there's like one good one, right? And so like even if you got 2, maybe it's not that big of a bonus.
Right.
Slaanesh has like 5 decent command traits. Okay. It's amazing. So let's bust through here real quick. Kenny, we'll start with you. Have you got a particular favorite of the command traits?
I tend to really like Supremely Vain.
Mm-hmm.
So add 1 to hit rolls, casting rolls, and unbinding rolls for the general if there are 10 or more friendly Slaanesh models within 6 inches of this general when the roll is made.
which is really easy to do because, again, a bunch of Daemonettes or Marauders or Chaos Warriors. Like, my keeper always, who is my general generally, always has like a pack of Daemonettes around her, or 5 Hellstriders following her around. So like hitting that 10 number is pretty easy, and it's not wholly within; it's just within 6. Mm-hmm. It's models, but it's just within 6. So you don't need the whole model in there. Yeah, fantastic. 1 to hit puts most of your generals' hits on 2s. Right, in most cases, for most of your generals. And then 1 to cast. Obviously, having both a combat and a casty general, cast bonuses are fantastic for all the reasons of endless spells and everything.
It's so amazing.
And 1 to unbind. Great. These are all things I want. And to get both combat and cast on the same ability, it's good. It's real good. Okay. Yeah, okay. Let's keep going. Shall we? How about the Devotee of Torment?
Yeah,
one I'm a particular fan of. Oh, yeah, go ahead, Tom. Talk about Devotee if that's your pick. Go for it.
Yeah, so on Devotee of Torment, what it allows the general to do is the general's pile-in is 6 inches instead of 3. Not unlike the Sisters of Slaughter. That they've gotten a lot of play recently. And then likewise, like the Sisters, the general can be picked to fight in the combat phase if they're within 6 inches of an enemy rather than 3. And so what you could potentially do is like get into a fight with a unit, in like one of your friendly units into their unit, but like let both of them fight in combat. And then once that enemy unit has activated, you can then choose to pile in your general who's been safely out of combat as the final activation to come in and slam that other unit. And because this is not a charge, you don't have to end within a half of an inch. So you can still have those other models like in between you and them, and reach over them.
Yeah, this gets even more sick. Okay. Yeah. Because you can also retreat every round. Yep. And then just walk back into combat. And remember, your keepers have moves that are ridiculous. When they walk out of combat, they walk like 16 inches out of combat, right? So they can just leave a combat in your retreat phase, walk over, end within 6 inches of a different unit, and then when it comes time to fight, just go badoop and jump into that fight instead. Like, what's charging?
Well, I think it's also good to mention there, like for the mortals and the demons, there's the one big command ability where you get to pick someone to activate twice. So, I mean, you can get even more fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The Chaos Lord, and I'm going to talk about the general often as though they're a keeper of secrets, because hot take, that's what I always use. But it shouldn't be overlooked, like the mortal. If you're looking for a mortal lord, the mortal lord on like Mount of Slaanesh on the little worm, that dude also has like a 16-inch movement and has the mortal version of the double pile-in command ability. So like again, same nonsense can be pulled, right? Of just like whoop. Like, it's just, that's 22 inches away without moving, like just with the retreat that person has traveled on the board, right? That's a heck of a lot of movement.
And technically, you could run as well because you're not charging. Like, you can run and pile in.
Yes, you can run and pile in. Yeah, you can get the D6. Yep. Absolutely. Absolutely, you can retreat and run and still do the 6-inch pile-in. It is wacky town. Again, speed kills, right? Like, this army can just be where it needs to be. All right. Those are all good, but we're not done. There's still more. There's so much more.
It was hard to just pick 2.
I know, this is the challenge. Like, even with 2, I'm like, there's still more I want. It's not enough. I must have more.
I think I made the right choice in Meltdown, but yeah, it was hard.
There's the old allure of Slaanesh, which is very straightforward, which is the subtract 1 from hit rolls for attacks made by melee weapons against the general. Great, because you don't have a lot of magic item choices in this army since you have no battalions. So burning your only magic item on like a Griff Feather Charm or something might not be the best choice. So you can pick that up here. And it can also be obviously then stacked with your various Hellstriders they're going to be running around. So very frequently my general is safely getting into combat at like -2 to be hit. So that does a lot of work. And then we should also, and then finally, it's a very particular build, but it is actually surprisingly crushing. It will surprise people, especially now in a world where command points aren't always just sitting around ready to stop or ready to be used for battle shock. Cruel and Sadistic, where enemy units add 2 to their battle shock rolls for each model slain by attacks made by the general instead of 1. So basically, like, it's surprising how much that can do.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you kill 1 or 2 brutes off a unit of brutes, the whole unit vapes.
Right.
Because suddenly that's like 4 against their they're gone. They're just gone. So it can actually do a lot of work, but it works best if you're sort of going for that bravery assault run.
This works great on the Reavers, the Deepkin Reavers, before their little man has a chance to It's just a special pleasure of when you kill them, and then they're like, well, that's okay, I'll just get my... Oh, wait, I'm gone. The poor little guy is like, wait, where'd they go? It's surprisingly effective. That's what I took as my second one, and it was kind of a tough choice. And it's situational. Sometimes it didn't do much, but when it did, it took a unit. Like, it took a big unit just gone.
Yeah. It's one of those things that, like, it helps if you build to it a little, but it will jump out and surprise people. Because it can, like, bravery by units is often meant to withstand 1 or 2 casualties. When you suddenly are effectively doubling that number, you get things running. It especially hits, like, if Stormcast aren't running like a command point heavy build, it will actually make a lot of the smaller Stormcast units flee right off the table or take heavy battle shock casualties, right? Assuming they're not running, like, the battle shock community builds, which most people don't. Okay. Artifacts, quickly, we'll cover this, but yet again, we have many good choices here. It is a cornucopia of riches, which is absolutely apropos for Slaanesh. Kenny, you got an artifact you like? You only get 1 of these.
Breathtaker.
Oh, sweet Breathtaker.
Especially with the Deepkin. At the start of the combat phase, you pick an enemy within 3 inches and you roll a dice on a roll of 3 up, which most people can do. Even me, at times I can do that. That unit cannot be picked to fight until all other eligible units have fought.
Yeah, not just in that combat, until all other eligible units have fought. It moves that unit to last, right? Yeah.
Yeah, you open up the popper, and there they go.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that is your multi-charge winner right there. As Ashicus the Muse is in the chat and has been talking this up, the Mask of Spiteful Beauty, which at the start of your hero phase, you pick an enemy unit within 6 inches. This is the only challenge with it, because you have to be close to them at the start of your hero phase, which can be challenging. But you get to subtract 2 from that unit's bravery until your next hero phase. That's it. Just like that's period, right? Like their bravery goes down by 2 as a score until your next hero phase. Obviously, when combined with the previous thing, it can do a lot of work. So if you're building toward that bravery bomb. Tom, do you have another artifact that you like? There's a couple others I like in here.
No. Like, honestly, when I look across this, I hit the Breathtaker, and I'm like, okay, I'm done.
Takes your breath away.
Yeah, like, there's just, like, because they don't have battalions, I only ever choose 1 item, and it would be Breathtaker every time.
Sure.
It's so good.
Yeah. I am going to argue for the benefits of at least 2 other items. Here we go. I'll do them quick. The Enrapturing Circlet. Mm-hmm. Okay. At the start of your hero phase, enemy units within 3 inches suffer 1 mortal wound. Not a big deal. It's kind of an interesting little bomb if you have a combat lord that's going to get stuck in or whatever, right? And can starts chipping away at heroes and stuff like that. They're in the mix because it is every unit. That's not why I like it. Why I like it is, in addition, enemy units within 3 inches of the bearer at the start of your opponent's movement phase can't retreat. It shuts off retreating. It stops their movement, right? And I do like things that prevent retreating. I think that's actually quite an interesting ability that is not commonly seen.
Anytime you can break the mechanics of the game, anytime you can change the rules of the game that everybody assumes are given, you have a leg up, because they will, in their like passive calculations of how to deal with a situation, will often take those things into account. And if you can change those rules, you can catch people flat-footed. Absolutely.
Yeah, this is the reason I always like the Household Battalion out of Sylvaneth, right? Because it shuts off retreat. I think that's very powerful, especially in an objective-based game where oftentimes retreating onto objectives is a pretty good move. Okay. And then
if you're going to pick the same one.
What is there another one? Okay, well, go ahead.
I want to hear what your other one is.
It's the icon of infinite excess. It seems
Oh.
like it's not a big deal. It's a huge deal. Okay.
That's mine, yeah. It
Yeah.
really is. I've had it used twice where like, I'll give it a shot, and it won me the game. It was a huge difference.
Yep. It is massively massive. So let's talk about this thing real quick. Once per battle, the start of the combat phase, you can use the artifact. If you do so until the end of that combat phase, you add 1 to hit rolls for models that were within 8 inches of the bearer at the start of that combat phase. Okay, so you immediately pulse an 8-inch bubble, and all the models that are within 8 inches get +1 to hit. All the models, including your enemy. So that's number 1. Okay.
Yeah.
So you got to be careful about this thing. But it's only at the start. So, like, if you have a hero who's, say, I don't know, 6 inches away at the start of the combat phase, I don't know why they would be 6 inches away. I mean, I can't think of any reason why they would be 6 inches away at the start of the combat phase, but let's just imagine that crazy world, that wackadoo situation. Okay. And then you pop this, and let's say you can get a good sized chunk of Daemonettes in there, which you can. Daemonettes on a 5+ trigger an additional attack. When you move that to a 4-up, right? And so they're hit on 3s, and on 4s, they trigger extra attacks and they reroll 1s. All of a sudden, those girls will go to work. Okay. Like they will go to work. Because you will make like, all right, I've got this unit of Daemonettes. I've got, 50 attacks. I got 73 hits. What? Right? Like that's the kind of things that will start happening. Yep. And even though it only happens for that one round, it can be the round where you need to crack a nut and win the game, right? Like oftentimes combat comes down to one round, and this can be the item. So, and this is great, by the way, for mortal leaders as well, for the same reason. Like this can also be really good for popping it and popping off with like a unit of Chaos Knights that can come in from far away and just blast through something, like a big unit, because you can get them as well. And like moving them with that +1 can also really change their math.
Funny story.
Yeah.
Slaanesh can ally in Nurgle.
Yeah, sure. Anything that's not Demons of Khorne, yeah.
Right. And so you could bring in Blade Kings. And
sure.
And bump, like in addition to the other things you're bumping up, you could bump up their exploding attacks.
Ah, yeah. There you go. Nice. Obviously, that's not a combination I would ever do because,
Right. But if you're like it's the flip side of that STD force.
Sure, absolutely. Yes.
I'm trying so hard to not be R-rated tonight.
No, it's tough with
You're
this
doing great, Tony. Or Tony. You're doing great, Kenny.
All right.
It's okay.
Yeah.
So that's all that. All this stuff is good stuff. The problem is you do have a limited amount, right? With basically only one magic item ever, because you have no battalions. That's a real kick.
Yeah.
That was a surprise.
I
get one.
Yeah. But let's talk about the brightest spot in the darkness. The wonderful, wonderful thing that is depravity. I say, bring on the depravity. Okay? So, depravity points is how Slaanesh summons. And the way it works is like this. You get a depravity point, for every wound, not mortal wound, but wound, dealt by your heroes that doesn't kill a model. Okay? So, easiest way to explain this. 5 liberators. 2 wounds each, yeah?
Yep.
Okay. Your Keeper of Secrets kills the whole unit. Just wipes them out. You're going to get 5 depravity points off of that because every one of them is 2 wounds. So they took a wound, you get a point. They take a wound, they die, you get nothing. Next guy takes a wound, you get a point. Takes a wound, dies, you get nothing. And so on and so forth, right? So single wound infantry is your nightmare. That's what your Daemonettes are for. You got to send them in to clean up that garbage, okay? And you also get a depravity point for every wound your heroes suffer that doesn't kill them, okay? So what this should tell you is 2 things. 1,
your heroes need to be in combat.
Your heroes need to be in combat.
You got to be farming.
And 2, you should have 6 heroes in your list. Right? Like a list without 6 heroes is doing it wrong. I stand behind this. Like, because that's you have left potential depravity points on the table. Like, or off the table, I guess would be the more appropriate way to say it.
Well, you can summon now, so I mean, there's no reason not to have 6.
Absolutely. Get 6. You can go over limits when you summon. So you should just have 6
get more.
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, like I have my own particular mix of that, and we'll talk about that when we get to units. But 6 heroes represents so many potential wounds of just like automatic depravity points. You get them forward, you get them stuck in, and it's a wonderful consolation price too. Much like how Blood Tithe is winning for losing. You know, when your own units die and you're like, who cares? Blood Tithe point, right? This is like your heroes get their faces punched in and you're like, whatever. It's depravity points. There'll be more heroes where those came from. So, you know, yes. I love this mechanic. And the chart for depravity summoning is, I would say, quite forgiving for getting more heroes. Like 6 will get you another Herald. So right out of the gate, there's 5 wounds, 4 more potential depravity points. Now you're not going to do that, but you could. Right? 12 gets you a Herald on Chariot. But that's okay. That's fine. 18 gets you the Herald of Slaanesh on Exalted Seeker Chariot, which
that's the spot.
That is the sweet spot. Yes, absolutely. Roll out them barrels. Just keep them coming. Woo! Just psycho lunatics on razor chariots.
And this is, by the way, Vince, where it matters. The mortal wounds. Because when they drift in, they can't farm like all of the summoning points from a drift.
Yeah, sure. Although I will say, like, you never, in my experience of running a lot of Exalted Chariots, it's rare that you actually get the dream situation. We'll talk about it when we get to Exalted Chariots, but it doesn't come up as much as it should.
As much as it should.
Yeah, like you read the rule and you're like, oh, I'm going to explode a unit. That's going to be amazing. And then you play it and you're like, oh, I can only touch 3 guys somehow.
Damn
like, yeah, like because of terrain and just the way that units organize and stuff like that. But they're still a great unit. Okay. And then 24 gets you your new keeper, right? Now, as an example, in a game, this is a multiplayer game, but nonetheless, I only had 1,500 points. I still had 6 heroes, but I only had 1,500 points. Because we did the 2,000 point setting minus 500. Doesn't matter. Anyways, I did get 84 depravity points in a single game. So you can get a lot. I think I summoned like 2 Keepers of Secrets, 2 Exalted Chariots, and then whatever else was left on more crap. So, you know, you can get a lot. And you can chain summon too, because when you summon, you've got to be near one of your heroes. Right?
Yep.
So like if you've got enough, like one of the things I ended up doing was like I had enough to I had 24. So I was doing 1 keeper. I like popped out a regular Herald and then had the regular Herald pop out a Chariot way over here. That kind of thing. So it could go charging off. Oh yeah.
Cheater.
Yes. So, okay.
It's impressive. I think I got like 50 something was my max.
Sure. Well, I mean, like I said, there was 3 players on the table, so it was, you know, a little easier, right? Okay. And those summoned heroes continue to add depravity, being the relevant point, right? When you suddenly summon a new Exalted Chariot, that's with a Herald on top, that's 8 more potential depravity points just in her wounds, not to mention the wound she's going to cause when she goes careening into something and they make that Chariot makes like it's 20, you know, actual melee attacks. Again, they don't get it for the mortal wounds, but that unit does make that Chariot does make like 20 attacks. So it's worth some stuff.
It's more of GW helping us instill values into, you know, families and friends. I think the good lessons, the 4 gods that we have. Basically, your use is to go out there and to take pain and absorb unpleasantness, and that will make you stronger. It's like the Disney version of it. It's a little toned down.
Sure. No, that's fine.
It is very themey though. Of all, I mean, Khorne maybe is the other one that's quite on the same level, I think, though, of like theme and how the points are generated.
Absolutely.
I mean, Tzeentch is as well, like Magic.
I don't know, man. Like theirs is, it's fine, but it's kind of flat. Like yes,
the Nurgle one is the one that's the least compelling.
I don't know. I find the Nurgle and the Zeech, this is a side argument, but I find them both kind of equally compelling because they feel very mechanical, right? Like you feel the mechanics. It's a personal sense. This is going to be different for everybody. But like I feel the bookkeeping with the Nurgle thing of like you're stopping and totaling. All right, do I have anybody in their zone? Is there anybody in this? Is there anybody in my zone? And how many trees do I have? And let me roll some dice. And you're doing all this sort of bookkeeping math at the start of the round. Tzeentch just feels like, okay, yeah, I guess they want to cast spells, but it just feels like there wasn't a really like Bonzer idea. But like Blood Tithe, like for it to really be in Tzeentch in the same way, it would need to be like you create change or execute some brilliant plan, right? That's the theme of Tzeentch, not just casting magic. Tzeentch isn't just cast magic, the god.
Oh yeah, it is.
He's the Lord of Change, right? And the manipulator, the schemer. But okay. But Khorne and Slaanesh, like depravity and blood, baby. That's right. All right. Okay. So yeah, summoning is great. It really is awesome. Like I stand behind the Slaanesh summoning 110%. Max out your heroes, get stuck into it. Your people are fast. Get them up there, get them fighting, get them killing. Just stay away from the one wound chaff units. Like those are for like your Daemonettes and your non-hero units to go clean up. Right? Use your Chaos Knights or whatever you happen to have to go blow through that crap. Get it out of here. Ugh. Get it out of here. Like you go hunt other heroes. That's what you should be doing. Those guys are just bags of depravity points waiting to be popped open like a Pringles can. All right. So anything else we want to say on depravity or the summoning before we go on?
No, I'll wait till we get to the units.
All right. Then let's get to the units. Best, worst, fun. Talk about them. What do you like? What don't you like? Kenny, kick us off, buddy. What's your hot picks? What give me. Let's start at the beginning here. Well, who's your go-to general? What do you like?
Well, my go-to is the Keeper.
Yes,
I think that's pretty fair. Do you want me to talk more about the Keeper or?
Sure, man. Character? Yeah, break it down.
So the Keeper is difficult. To be fair, a lot of this is based on model until we have a new kit.
Yeah,
it's kind of hard. Now, when I play at the Warhammer store, I have to change my army list because I have 2 GW Keepers, but the ones I'm running are from like Creature Caster, or I ordered the one from Raging Hero. So there are other lines that are out there. But now with the other 3 gods having nice big models, and then you see the little Keeper of Secrets that's out there, and it's kind of painful sometimes. You know what too, and don't overlook this if you're not playing like super hardcore competitive. I did this in Path to Glory, and it's a ton of fun. If you look at the beginning, they have this fun little fluff roll where you can give somebody a weapon as a temptation, and it can kill that hero. And yeah, it's one of those fun fluffy rolls, but it actually can matter sometimes. So don't forget about it. But yeah, I mean, this is with being the only wizard, I guess. Really, this is unfortunately, I feel like you need 2 of them in an army.
Yeah, I mean, it's the regular Keeper of Secrets is quite honestly a good deal. She went down in points. Now we're not going to talk about the model, okay?
Good.
We're just going to pretend like that model doesn't exist because the Keeper of Secrets is the worst model still in production. Period. It's garbage. If I had the power of Thanos, I would snap my fingers and eliminate those from existence. That's what I would be doing.
Damn it, they're still here.
Yeah. Okay. It is an utterly terrible model, but
the worst.
The worst. Now, that being said, it's a 10 wound model, so it's 9 potential depravity points with a, pretty fast move if it's unwounded, 14 inches, right? And 4-up save, pretty standard stuff. Decent attack profile, making 6 attacks with -1 for 2 damage and 2 attacks with -2 rend for D3 damage. Her spell is utter garbage. The Cacophonic Choir. It had the previous edition nerf bat because like caco bombing was such a horrendous thing in the previous edition that when they remade it, they just nerfed it so hard as to be completely worthless. And it is completely worthless.
She's fun to play in the Realm of Life, though.
What's that?
She's fun to play in the Realm of Life.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Like, ow, ow, ooh.
Indeed.
So, She still has the regular keeper still has the reroll wound rolls of 1 built in automatically to her, which is sweet since she wounds on 3 and wounds on 2s with that big sword. So quite accurate. Her command ability is top notch. The pile in twice for a demon unit, right? Within 12 inches, which she can obviously do to herself and often will. But in that turn with the icon of excess popped, guess what? Those daemonettes might be a pretty good target for that too. If they're hitting on 3s, rerolling 1s, extra attacking on 4s, doing that all twice, pretty good. It's pretty good.
I would be afraid they would murder their way out of combat. I mean, like that's like the advantage of the keeper, like doing that on the double piling in on the keeper is that like on the next pile in she moves 6 inches towards the nearest enemy. Like so she can stay, and all that's going to generate depravity, or a lot of it will if you're attacking the right targets.
Like a spider monkey, the way she just moves through. It's pretty good.
Yeah.
Like a spider monkey.
Take that, Yetis.
Absolutely. All right. And all of that, realistically, that package, what you're getting all of that for, it's 260 points. Not a bad deal. She's pretty good.
Her cost is so going up in the next.
I mean, that's fine as long as we get something good.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, yeah, if we get remade into into something appropriate, like we're the last greater demon with 10 wounds.
Right.
Right.
Yep.
So
we try to talk about it.
Yeah, exactly. Tom, what do you like for amongst the heroes? Are you also a keeper fan? Are you a Lord of Slaanesh on demonic mount fan?
For generals,
demonic mounts.
Yeah, I mean, for generals, like the keeper is my go-to. If we're still talking generals, though, like I like the Lord on, or I like the Slaanesh Lord on demonic mount, not the like Chaos Lord Mark Slaanesh, because with the mortal double pile and for a very different reason. I like it for it has amazing potential in like a list with Archeon.
Sure.
Because it creates some interesting incentives that you couldn't maybe necessarily normally do.
Yes, it also like if you're going to use this guy and you want him to actually be he's super fast because he's 7 wounds, which is decent,
right?
And 16-inch move. His big problem is he has no rend. But like if you're one magic item, if you're going to use this guy as a combat monster, then you give him like the rune sword or dimensional blade or whatever, right? So suddenly that main attack shoots up to -3 rend, and suddenly this guy actually shows up to do some work, right?
Right.
He does.
Still packing that chaos rune shield, so he's got the 5+ mortal wound protection, which is freaking great. And he has that nice advantage of like when enemy units finish their piling move within 3 inches of them, basically they have -1 to hit. Yeah. So again, more stack and blocking of that -1 to hit. Like you really get to a point where you can make this guy pretty darn unkillable in melee if he's got the right command trait / Hellstriders following him around situation. Right.
Yep.
Yeah, he's good.
I mean, he's still the like B team. Like he's not the keeper, but I'd probably still run him. Sure.
And I mean, he's only 140 points. Right. That's the other big advantage. Like he is, when you're trying to get 6 heroes in a list, they can't all be keepers of secrets. That's the,
Right. And there's one that you absolutely have to take. But yeah, it's good to have him in there too.
Yeah. My shout out is going to be for the Exalted Keeper of Secrets. Now, hear me out, people of the internet. Okay. First of all, I have like 3 Exalted Keeper of Secrets models from different places. One being the Forge World one, and then 2 others being other sources. I use some of them. I use the biggest one in any fight as the Exalted one, and the smaller ones as just regular Keepers of Secrets now. I don't care that they're on bases that are way too big. I don't care. Okay? Deal with it. So, the Exalted Keeper, the reason that I love this girl to death is she's everything the normal Keeper has, but more. Now, she's expensive. Okay? No doubt about it. She's 440 points. She went down some. She's a lot. But she's 15 wounds, 14 potential depravity points. Right there. Okay? Still fast. A lot more attacks with that -2 rend sword. She goes up to 4 attacks. And she's straight 3 damage instead of D3. Zang. I like that. Okay. She has the same command ability, but she loses the reroll ones to wound, which is unfortunate. I don't know why they took that away.
She's too good.
Really? Like, why did the normal one keep it and she lost it? I feel like they just forgot it.
No, they nerfed all of the Exalted. Like, all the Exalteds lost things they shouldn't have.
I guess. Sure. And then, you know, her biggest downside is she used to be a 3+ save, so she was the toughest thing in the army, but now she's a 4+, which makes me very sad. But that being said, who cares? You're supposed to take wounds. Get into it. You know, it's like depravity makes it like, you know what? So what? So freaking what? Kill everything you can and die in the process. We'll just make more. That's what it comes down to. And yeah, she has the little whispered temptations, which does give you the ability to outright slay enemies. Ironically, of course, terribly, when you do that, you don't get any of the depravity points for it. If they're outright slain, you don't get the depravity points.
That is
so
downside, yeah.
Why? Like, I just feel like it should have just been like deal 10 wounds or something, you know, like that. Like, sure, you can still make your saves even. I don't care. It's just extra potential depravity. And not even 10 mortal wounds, just wounds. But anyway, all right. So let's talk about some other stuff. Let's talk about some other hits. Pick whatever you like. We'll do it best, worst, fun. Let's just go around the horn. Talk about a couple of units. Kenny, well, what's your other unit you want to hit on?
I love the mask.
Super fun.
She's fun, but it was sort of an accident. I stumbled on, especially with a lot of terrain on the battlefield now, and she is very easy to hide. And not trying to like deceive your opponent, but I mean, it's easy to kind of get her somewhere where she's has her line of sight blocked. But then,
she's on a 25 mil round.
Yeah, I mean, when we play, it could be the Worst Crier Citadel, it could be an Azerite Ruin, or whatever. It could be a club, homemade terrain. But if she's within 12 inches of the enemy at the boot phase, they're half. So, that made her a target at Meltdown. Have like the gash and stuff going after her. I mean, she's. They plan out mathematically. They kind of like Tom. I'm sure talking about like you got it all worked out, and all of a sudden a little private dancer comes over and she's dancing for money, and it just screws up your entire plan. And I love her. She's for 80 points. 80 points. She's just
80 points. Yeah. She's cheap.
So useful. And then when she gets hit, she's a battery for 4 points. But she's just been such like a little hidden gem.
Yeah, absolutely. The mask makes it into my 6 every time. Just because she's so silly. And that half move will just call people out. And she's also super fast. Like, she's on, again, 25 mil base, and she got a 10-inch move. Right?
I mean, it goes back to what we said. Like, what she does is she changes the rules around her.
Right.
And at any time you can change the rules around you, you can, like, it will change people's game plans and throw them, put them on the back foot.
Yep. Absolutely. Yeah, so like just being able to reach out and have that move characteristic, I will say that, and by the way, Kenny, I know we're friends forever because also I make the private dancer joke every time that
keep it somewhat clean for your show.
Yeah, no, that's fine. At the start of their movement phase, I just start going, "She's your private dancer, your dancer for money," and then I'm like, "Oh, all these units are half move."
If she gets damaged, she gets like the black eye, like so you could play her like pre.
Absolutely, yeah. It's very Tina Turner. All right, so she's just a really interesting piece that again does something very unique that it's hard for people to sort of account for, right?
Yep.
And by the way, she's also perfectly fine for an 80.5 wound hero. Like, she's on 3s and 4s with neg 1 rend and 1 damage. She will often be re-rolling both her hits. She'll often be re-rolling her hits and wounds because usually her move characteristic of 10 inches is faster than other foot enemies you put her into. Yep. And she has like a weird defensive ability that is often pointless, but whatever, her little unnatural reflexes thing.
6.
Sure, if you happen to toss the 6, it's great, but it doesn't come up.
Actually,
yeah. And she's still got a 4-up save. So, like, again, for 80 points, come on. I mean, what do you want out of an 80-point hero here? You know what I mean?
Yep.
Like, she does enough. So yeah. Okay. I support that choice 100%. Tom, what's another fun pick from you?
I'm
or
super
whatever.
like
Another pick.
I am highly biased, and you already saw this when we were talking about summoning towards the Seeker or the
Herald on Exalted Chariot.
Herald on Exalted Chariot. That's right. Because this unit, it feels like does everything. Like it does everything that I want it to. It has high mobility. It's more than 5 wounds, so it can take a couple hits. Not a lot, but a couple.
Yeah. It's a 9-wound hero, but not without a monster chart. Yep.
Yep. So there's no decreased effectiveness. It can spit out some mortal wounds, and not a little bit, like a lot.
Like a lot.
Okay. So after you finish a charge, for those of you that don't know the ridiculousness that is the Seeker Chariot, Exalted Seeker, sorry. So after you finish a charge, you measure it's all models within 3 inches, right? Or is it all that you're touching? An inch. I'm sorry. So basically, everybody that you're touching, or if they're ranked up, really, if they're still if they have foolishly stacked up 25 mils, rank and file, in that attempt to get a second rank. When you come in, you're going to measure all models within an inch, and then you roll dice, and on a 4+,
that's right.
It does a D3 mortal wounds.
Oh yeah, baby. Oh yeah.
So if there's 10 models that are within an inch, you're going to average 5 D3 mortal wounds to that unit. And combat hasn't started yet.
Slaanesh Tokyo Drift.
That is right. Yeah, you always Tokyo Drift because it's on the 120 mil oval. So every Seeker Exalted Chariot I've ever had hits like this. It just swoop, just Tokyo drifts right into the enemy every time.
Which, that seems to make sense. That's how that would work, right?
Absolutely. It has some other rules like enemy heroes get neg 1 to hit it. Okay, fine. Again, more like neg 1 to hitting, which is great. And it adds 1 to battle shock tests if you charge in the same turn. That's fine. Whatever. The thing does make 20 attacks. None of them are great, but it does throw a lot of dice out there too. 20 attacks is a lot of attacks for a chariot to make.
Yeah. It'll kill a couple models.
And it can buff up with the whips too, with the Exalted.
Yes. So it's especially good for low armor targets. It's great for clearing out things like Marauders, right? Or Reavers or things like that are on 5 up, 6 up, 25 mil bases. This is your choice target for this thing to just go plowing into and start mowing down, right?
It will delete things.
Yeah, absolutely.
Censoring myself.
No, that's okay. Yeah, it's a hot choice. No doubt about it. It's a great take. I think we would be remiss if we didn't mention Hellstriders, obviously. Hellstriders who have a silly banner that broadcasts a 6-inch bubble around the banner, giving all models, specific models in that area, neg 1 to hit. And as of right now, it stacks. So there's that. So you have to play very carefully with it. You need to make sure your banner bearer is always positioned exactly correctly because you will be measuring off of the banner bearer. It's not measured off of the unit. It's not measured, and it's not the enemy unit being within 6. It's a little 6-inch bubble that literally floats around the banner bearer in the Hellstrider unit. And, if you happen to have 2 of those guys, it happens to be neg 2 to hit. And if you haven't noticed, we've said the phrase neg 1 to hit quite a lot of times in this episode. So your army may be made of so I knew people were going to ask us about this, as soon as I said they stacked.
Yeah.
So even on the stream, they talked about this stacking.
Yep.
On the stream, when they were talking about the tactics, they talked about this stacking. I will read the exact rules text.
Yep.
From blah 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 blah. Okay, there you go. Subtract. I'm not going to read the.
I understand.
Subtract 1 from the hit rolls of enemy models within 6 inches of a unit that contains any enrapturing banners. The any is in the wrong place. That's why this still stacks. Right. If it said any unit with an enrapturing banner,
it would not stack.
Right.
But because the any is contained within the clause that has like within the unit, that specific unit, it does stack.
Right.
Because what it's not allowing you to do is to have 5 banners in a single unit and get neg 5.
Yeah, and I did say it wrong. I will correct myself. Where I was wrong was I said it's from the banner. It is from the unit. It's better than I originally stated.
Okay, good.
I forgot. No, I was thinking it was off of both because I hadn't went back and read the rule recently. I apologize. So yes, it's models.
Yep.
Enemy models, only the models. I was right on that side, but it is 6 inches of the whole unit. So I'm sorry. Thank you. I thank you for correcting me. Thank you, Dan, for correcting me.
And that is how it works. Because to be clear, it is as good as it sounds. Like I was thinking about running these back when I was running my Plague Touched Warband. Like I was really considering working these guys in because of how good it is.
Sure. So anyways, they're really good. It's a crazy, stupid good thing. And by the way, Hellstriders battle line in Slaanesh Allegiance. So there's that. 100-point unit for 5 dudes that are super fast. These guys are rocking like a 16-inch move. They just zip around the board and broadcast this neg 1. They fill your battle line slots. They are a dream unit. A dream unit.
Whips have a 3-inch movement, or 3-inch range, and they have freeze.
Yep. So they can just roll up behind, some other unit that's fighting and just give a couple hits over the top. They're not going to do much. They're a very weak unit offensively, but still.
They're great.
Give a little scoop tickle.
Absolutely, just a little bit.
They're great during when you're playing High Tide or you're playing against someone who has High Tide going on, because then you just leave and you go back around. You just position yourself nicely, like, all right, have fun. It really pisses off deep game players.
I'm sure it does.
Try it sometime. It's fun because, they get to go. Then you at the bottom of the turn. Then you move yourself. You go out of combat. You just move around, like wave to Volturnus, and then he whiffs around, and everybody gets very unhappy.
Sure. Everybody, look. You know what people love more than anything? Having neg 3 to hit. It is most people's favorite thing. Everybody loves only hitting on 6s. It's great. No, it's terrible. But nonetheless, this is the only way we play. Sorry, the whole army's on 5 up saves. What do you want from us? And we don't have any other special saves. So that's how this goes. This is it, folks. This is the only thing we got going on right now. We're just bad daughters of Cain. So we gotta make hay wherever we can find it. We're gonna spin this straw into gold, gosh darn it. All right. There's a lot of loser units in this force. Okay.
Yep.
I would argue things like the Fiends of Slaanesh are a total loser. They're fast, but they have no actual purpose. They don't do enough. Yeah. They don't hit hard enough. They don't do anything. They're not worth it. There's no point to them, which is a real shame. And sadly, the Seeker chariots the little chariots fall into the same place. The cost differential. Yeah, the cost differential isn't big enough. The Herald on Exalted Chariot is cheap enough, or even the regular Exalted Chariot. There's no reason to get the regular one. Now, if I need an extra hero and have no other choice, I have on occasion summoned a Herald on regular Seeker Chariot just to get, if it's the thing that's going to win me the game on an objective, great.
Right.
But it's the same size base, right, as the Exalted Chariot. They're both on 120s. And this one's a 6 wound model, so it's less potential depravity points, much less attacks, all that kind of stuff. So, there's all these things are not great. All your best units out of the Slaves to Darkness that are good are still good here. So again,
they're doing all the same things.
They're doing all the same things, but they're also getting mobility. If you're doing the mark sharing shenanigans out of Slave to Darkness, then most of these units. What's actually awesome is all the Slaanesh based stuff in Slaves to Darkness actually stacks better because the various components are distinct. So you can do a lot of different run and charge and run faster, run farther. It turns your knights and your warriors into actually quite fast units, which things like that aren't usually. So that's pretty cool. So I like all that stuff. Somebody mentioned earlier the Chaos Lord of Slaanesh, old Sigvald, the Magnificent, Mr. Perfection. Somebody mentioned him with the Sword of Judgment. That is fun because he has his own built-in +1 to hit when he fights enemy heroes. right?
Mhm.
So he can walk around judging people pretty effectively. And he makes 6 attacks, hence why that's so good, right?
So good.
At the same time, he also, if he uses his own command ability on himself, anytime then when he's got that +1, anytime he rolls a 5 or more, not only would he then trigger the D6 wounds, but he'd also make an extra attack. Right? So, like, it goes bonkers pretty fast. Like, that little guy will walk up to a big multi-wound hero and just, like, burrow through it. Right? Like, he'll come out the other side. So that's pretty solid.
He's very angry about the way he died in the old world, or the world that was.
He did get punched to death by a troll who made him ugly and then killed him. And then, like, peed on him. Like, that all happened. So, yeah. It was unfortunate.
By the way, that is a really good novel, too. If you just like Slaanesh or you just like good books, Darius Hanks wrote the Sigvald novel, and you can get it like the ebook, or you can get it online on like Amazon or something. But it's actually really good. It's a really charming book.
Nice. Final one we should talk about is the regular old Seekers. Now they have the problem they're not battle line, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's unfortunate.
They're kind of pricey.
They're kind of pricey at 120 points for the same 10 wounds. But can we talk about what do you feel? Let's go around the horn here on how we feel about Seekers. Tom, I want to start with you and your feeling on Seekers of Slaanesh. Right? Base stats, 14-inch move, 2 wounds, 5 up save. Each model effectively makes 4 attacks, basically on 4s and 4s, with 2 of those attacks having -1 rend, all 1 damage. Right? They have the standard demon crap, and they have the standard thing where, like, if you hit on a 6, they get to make an extra attack with their claws. Quicksilver speed. When they run, you roll 2 dice and add them together instead of a single dice, and you can run and charge. And you add 1 to all run and charge rolls for this unit if it's within 12 inches of any demon heroes of Slaanesh from your army. Okay.
And it's 100 for 5.
120.
120. Is there a discount for a max unit?
No, there's no horde discount on them. They're just straight 120. 120 per 5.
Max of 20.
I believe they're max of 20. Yes, they're max of 20. I've never used them in more than 5 in a unit.
Really?
Well, like my immediate thought was, like, I think there are other things I would rather run instead of them. But you could easily, if you had a max unit, especially if they were discounted, you could send a unit into the enemy at the top of 1 and just stop them from going anywhere. Because of just how much meat you would have there that they would have to grind through, and you choose your angle of charge because your movement is so ridiculous. That said, I probably wouldn't run them.
Yeah. Okay, Kenny.
Because I think about this, like Hellstriders have 4 attacks as well, right? With their whips, they have greater reach, so they have more attacks. I think they have greater reach. They have 2-inch reach, projecting a -1 bubble. And like I don't know why I would run these over Hellstriders.
Sure, that's fair, and they're not battle line under any conditions.
Yeah, and they're not battle line. Like I don't. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know when I would run these.
I do.
All right, go for it, Kenny. On the pro side, Kenny.
Well, with the with the 2nd edition, they are fantastic now with units that are. Shooting units that are difficult. So you just fly them up because they're going to be able to clog up on turn 1 or maybe on turn 2 and absorb some fire that you did not want coming at your other units.
Yeah, they will get across the board. So to put this math into perspective, right, what we're talking about here is this unit moving 14, running 2d6 plus 1, and then charging 2d6 plus 1, assuming there's like a hero relatively within the range to satisfy that.
Right.
So like that's a heck of a lot of movement.
Excuse me.
Right?
Yeah.
Because on average that's 30 inches of movement. Like that's the average roll.
Right.
Now if you happen to also have cogs going or something like that, this just goes insane immediately. But I don't even think it's necessary. The advantage to me for them is actually the reverse. I do like, if you can fit it in, depending on your list and the way your heroes are, I think 5 of them is a super useful play to basically hold in reserve. Okay? Because you can put them anywhere in like the safest spot in the world, and they will sweep in late and take an objective. Like I can spend the whole game working them toward an objective, running all the way around the outside and getting them to where they need to be. They are my like turn 4 objective grabbers because they come in out of nowhere. Like they will come across the table and they are so fast. Like Hellstriders have a better base move, but these guys simply cover more ground. Right.
And you can zone for your board control. You can zone out people better with these because they can just go over where you want somebody to not deep strike or tunnel or whatever.
Yeah, and you don't need them. Like that's the point. Like the Hellstriders have a very specific purpose and have to basically follow around. They're sort of they end up being like your general or your best heroes or your daemonette's sort of honor guard, right? That just kind of follows them around. Whereas these guys are just floaters. They're there to help you establish board control and then sweep in an objective take. I think they're a luxury, but I think they have value in that purpose. I really do.
Is it 12 to summon them?
Oh, for just like straight up seekers on their summon?
Yeah, I think it's
that's a good question. I don't remember off the top of my head what their summoning is. They are 12
for 5.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yep, you're right. Yep, 12 for 5. Yep. Yeah, I almost never summon anything except heroes with my points unless it's to take an objective.
Yeah,
right?
That's depends on if you need it or not.
Yeah.
And that's what we're talking about is we're talking about objective grabbers.
Sure.
Which is what has me thinking about, like, is it worth putting them in the list or fitting more in and running that as something you summon? Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, it's an interesting option. To me, they're the other. They are really interesting as to what they can do and how they can get there. And I don't disagree with you, Kenny. Like tying up certain shooters can be pretty useful. Like the reality is if you go charge a bunch of dumb judicators, the judicators aren't going to kill you in melee with the butts of their stupid, worthless swords, right? You may be bad at melee, but they're worse, right?
Yeah, so, like, I mean, but most people are going to screen those, or I mean, they're like you're not going to be able to get to them.
They better have them pretty tightly screened because you can run way the heck around. Like again, not all screens aren't bubble wraps. Often screens are screens, and you can walk around screens, assuming you have 30 inches of movement to run around it. Right.
I guess a lot of it is shock value. I think when you may have an opponent and they just they may know the stats, but they haven't seen it before, and when they do, it's just like, oh god, you could throw somebody off their game.
Yeah, the desert, everybody knows the desert's hot, but unless you've walked across the desert for a couple hours low on water, you don't realize just how hot it is. Yes, I agree. All right. So obviously we won't cover every unit, but that's I think a good selection. Is there any other units anybody wanted to mention before we move on? Is there anything we didn't mention? Oh, we've talked about regular daemonettes a bunch of times, so I feel like we covered them. Anything we didn't talk about?
Yeah, I think that there's a surprising inclusion here that I don't think that people think about a lot.
I'm ready.
So how well do you guys know Chosen?
I mean, I know Chosen fairly well. I have used them on occasion.
So Chosen basically like they are like there's a reroll function that's going to be granted from them whenever they kill stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the fact that like giving a unit of Chosen double pile-in, like that's pretty good because they grant themselves then the rerolls for the second set of attacks. And Chosen can be fairly punchy. And so I don't think that this is a game-breaking combo. But it's something that like we talked about how like buffing is a big deal in Slaanesh because it's so few and far in between. And so to me, that's a really interesting, like, so anything that can generate buffs or itself has punch, the double pile-in that the generals bring have greater value. And that's one of those things that is interesting to me. I think about something like Chaos Knights on the charge with double pile-in.
Yep.
Because Chaos Knights on the charge are going to be like high damage, high rend. Yep. And so you can double pile-in with them to reap those benefits. I think about something like even like Varangard, like surprisingly, especially if you're running like an Archeon. So they're like they can triple pile in, right? Because they get to pile in an extra time for Archeon. And
yeah.
then
Well, they just have it as their own ability. It's not because of Archeon.
Yes.
They can just decide to do it once a game.
If he's on the table, though, right?
Well, Archeon would have to be on the table to give them the Slaanesh. No, the double piling can happen anytime for Varangard. They don't need Archeon to do that. But the for them to get the Slaanesh double pile in, they'd have to get the Slaanesh mark, and that only happens when Archeon's on the table because he's the one who goes, "You're Slaanesh this round."
Right. And so what I was going to point out was like they can be more effective on the charge, and they could get a triple pile in.
Archeon is aces for an Archeon Slaanesh of Slaanesh because that is 19 potential depravity points. And assuming you're picking your targets right with him, he's going to earn some depravity. Okay, get him out there, get him into it. As long as he's not apparently attacking buffed sequiturs, he'll get the work done. You got to watch out for those buffed sequiturs. They are, as we all, I await the Black Library novel where we hear about the story of Archeon just leaving because he ran into buffed sequiturs. But in all other cases, that dude, he can make some hay. And he can trigger off all of those other pile in and attack twice. He can benefit from either of the leaders pile in and attack twice abilities because he's both mortal and demon and Slaanesh mark.
Are the Varangard, do they have the demon keyword?
That's a great. I don't know off the top of my head. They don't have the Slaves to Darkness keyword. That's the problem.
I know they have the mortal keyword. But again, they don't. Okay, they have demonic-esque mounts. That's why I wasn't sure.
Mortal Prison Vanguard.
There you go.
Okay, so you'd have to run the Boob Snake Lord for the double pile in. But I say all that to say that I think that they could. I think that would be an interesting. I think there's some play there. Let me say it that way. With Varangard and with Chaos Knights. I think there's actually a really compelling mounted, an all-mounted Archeon Chaos list that's Slaanesh.
Okay. Sure. Fast. Super hard hitting. Sure.
Well, not only that, all of your, you can have Battle Line Hellstriders.
Yep.
So, everything, you can truly do an all-cav list.
Yeah. Absolutely. At 300 points, you've locked your battle line with, again, a useful unit that can ride around and keep your other, knights are hard to shift anyways. Knights that everybody's neg 1 to hit are even worse, right?
Yep.
That's interesting. Heywo Twitch pointed out that both the Varangard ability and I knew that ability said pile in a second time, but they both say pile in a second time. So you couldn't actually stack them under any condition.
Oh, hi, Heywo Twitch.
That's disappointing.
Yeah, and so I thought the Varangard said pile in and attack an extra time, since you only got to do it once. Nope, it's second time. They're very careful about that. Anywho,
I know you have a meeting in the morning, but so I won't take long. But
that's fine. We can keep going. I talk about Slaanesh forever. Go ahead.
Some other day this week, we should talk about some lists that involve a lot of cav.
Sure.
Archeon.
We talked about Archeon. There's another hero. There's another sneaky Slaanesh hero, though, we haven't mentioned that I don't want to leave before we mention.
Okay.
And that is the Demon Prince of Slaanesh. Okay.
I always forget about him.
Go on.
Everybody always does. Everybody always forgets about the Demon Prince, okay? And that's mainly because, the Demon Prince has, first of all, in the list, he's almost impossible to find. You know what I mean?
It's behind the bookmark.
Yeah, he doesn't show up under any of the normal searches when you're going through the app. But the Demon Prince. Hold on, I got to bring him up here.
Page 187 if you have the book.
There he is. There's my Demon Prince. No, I'm just looking in the app.
I found him.
There he is. All right, so the Demon Prince. 8-inch move, 8 wounds, right? Pretty solid. And right there, so 7 potential depravity points. Okay. I like where that's at. Again,
I love how you measure everything by how many depravity points it generates when it dies.
That is all you care about in this army. Yes, correct. Now, does have the demon keyword, right? So obviously it can be selected to pile in and fight twice by the demon leaders. Yep. Okay. can get the Slaanesh keyword, so fits in just there. And the Slaanesh keyword ability is when your opponent selects a unit within 3 inches of the Demon Prince to pile in an attack, you fight instead, right? Even though it's not your turn to do so. You can only do it if it is not already attacked in this phase. But you can like fight with your primary unit. They go to attack and you're like, nope, going in again, right? And so then they fight something. Then in comes your keeper from 6 inches away. And, you know, he has a fair number of attacks. He can fly. It's like, this is the only way you're going to get flight in Slaanesh, an army famously devoid of flying, which is, you know, rather unfortunate. But you can actually get fly. So this dude will go up to a 12-inch move when that happens. Thumbs up, even faster. Dig that. Yeah, I mean, all in all, like, the Demon Prince at 160 is usually how I round out my hero contingent. He can have that Slaanesh mark. He can benefit from the keeper. His attacks are decent, not amazing, but decent. And it's a good ability to get a flying hero. So there you go. All right. Let's talk about the future. Let's close this out, gentlemen, talking about the future. What do you want to see out of the Slaanesh release we're going to get at the beginning of the year? Let's just all agree that there is a Slaanesh release coming at the beginning of the year. We saw the Emperor's Child Noise Marine, like, spoiled rumor engine. So it's happening. Okay. And if there's a 40K Slaanesh release, then there's going to be a fantasy one too, because that's how this works. So given that's the case, you know, I thought about this. Games Workshop is unpredictable with their releases for everybody except Chaos. Okay. Ironically, in Chaos, they have the most order because it is the most consistent force they change the least and have the most regular schedule they're clearly trying to fulfill with it. Right? It's a legacy sort of component of the brand that's very popular. So the Chaos is the most ordered, regular, hammering the nails part of the release schedule. With everything else where they're trying to like bury the generic garbage, right? That's just sort of like the hangers out of the old world. They go nuts. They're like, yeah, man, fish elves. They were like crazy dark souls. They eat people, but they're order. And we got murder chicks in bikini who are part of a thrill kill cult. And this is who knows what we're doing? It's crazy time. But Chaos, it's like, we will do this, then we will do this, then we will do this, then we will do this. Right? Just ironic, I suppose. It's like it's, you know, it's like 10,000 spoons when all you need is a knife, I guess. All right. So, Kenny, where are we going in the future?
What, you want to talk about my conspiracy theory?
Yeah, man. Bring out that conspiracy theory. Hit us.
So I agree that we're getting the book, the God treatment. Whether that will be 2 or 3 different sub-factions, I don't know. Like Demon Mortal and then maybe something in between. Maybe they'll throw out the goats. Who knows? But I really do think, and I'm holding to this, I think that there is a small sub-faction. Hopefully we'll have more than 3 units in it, like the Fire Slayers. But I think that there is something for, maybe it's the Seekers. I don't know. But with the elf lore that's come out, I think that there is room for another small faction. And it could be that they were seeking after Slaanesh, and after they found him, like, well, we got something to do. Or maybe they didn't get the memo. They're still looking. Maybe they have to hunt down all those elves that came out. There's different ways you can take it, but I really strongly feel that there is room for a small sub-faction. And in that, you could take it and tie it to another Grand Alliance. You could tie it to one of the races that's come out. I would really be surprised if we got the God treatment and then didn't get something else within, I don't know.
Like a new sub-faction.
Yeah, I mean, you got like, you know,
so
it's kind of lighter shadow than Slaanesh, and then whatever the other realm you didn't do is.
I agree. Let me go one more and suggest that I think it will actually be an elf faction.
Yeah, elf hunters.
So this is the saying this is the elven souls that remain. Right, because Slaanesh still has some elven souls or something like that, or those that didn't get out or were too twisted or when we're in too deep or whatever.
That's it. That's exactly right. Like maybe in Slaanesh's escape, she gets cut open, whatever that means, and more elf souls come out. Only these have remained this entire time.
Right.
And so they are dark and twisted and utterly corrupted by her. And so we'll get our first taste of Chaos Elves. As some twisted Daughters of Cain esque, it'll echo all the elements that we've seen it echo.
Sure.
And we'll get true Chaos
something
Elves.
Like the old Cult of Slaanesh, right? Like there was famously that thing in 6th edition, the Cult of Slaanesh. I don't remember where it came out of, something like that. Yeah.
Revelers of Excess or something like that. And not unlike a Harlequin, Harlequins are like this, player oriented, jokey. And so revelry. And so maybe it may lean into that revelry of excess stuff, like Carnival of Excess or, something along those lines. I could easily see something like that playing out of these twisted souls, the rest. What is the rest of the story for those souls that are in Slaanesh that didn't make it out?
Okay.
And I think that that's a very narratively compelling, interesting option. And then, by the way, that gives the perfect reason for Tyrion to respond.
Oh, sure. All right.
Do something.
Absolutely. Here's my prediction. Here's my future of Slaanesh. I'll restrict myself to just the Slaanesh proper rather than these other ones. So you guys have this other thing mapped out.
As long as yours has new fiends, we're good.
Sure. We're gonna get new fiend models, new keeper model. All that's obvious. Okay. Yes, we will get all that. And the keeper kit will somehow have Nakari or something like that in it.
Right. Yep.
And it'll have probably a choice of heads of you can build it with the bull head or with the lady head. Because that would be an easy swap shape wise. I don't know if the book is called Hedonists of Slaanesh or if that's the new subtype. Okay. But the new subtype is hedonists. In other words, we have Arcanites, Rotbringers, and Bloodbound, right? That's the name of the corn one. Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
Hedonists is the new subfaction within Slaanesh. Okay.
Okay.
And the new model kits are the leather daddies. I've talked about it 100 times. I talk about it again. Get ready. Here comes the pseudo mortal, excess hedonism obsessed leather daddies. They're going to be riding chariots. They're going to be doing all the tricks. It is the Village People meets Hellraiser, right? It is suit up and get ready for the excess. It is time to steer into it.
Are you going to be okay if those are elves?
I'm sure. I don't care.
They're daddy elves.
I would like them less. No, they're not. They're not elves. I don't have to worry about that. Let me tell you why. What does a super muscular perfected elf look like? Exactly. It doesn't look like anything. You can't even conjure the image in your head because elves are all little wispy, they all look sick. They're all thin. They're on tiny frames as though their bones are made of toothpicks. No. Sigvald kept it svelte. We're not fighting Khorne here. Khorne builds mass. Okay. Slaanesh is about keeping it tight. Okay. That's what about, but not elf thin. It's going to be dudes who are more like the gymnast or something like that. A good middleweight physique. That's what I'm looking for here. Maybe somewhere in that area.
You want Gibbs.
Yeah, swimmers' bodies. There it is. I knew I'd find it. They're all going to look like Olympic swimmers. Boom. There it is. Sorry, I had to find it. So that's my prediction. And so it'll be the hedonists, and that'll be how they fill out the new units. We'll refresh a couple of the old models, new fiends, new keeper, stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't necessarily agree, is what I would say. It might be that. I don't know. I would be surprised if they. I don't know.
I want to get a picture of this so we can come back and revisit this in a few months.
Mm-hmm, sure.
What I will say, though, as an aside, is that I don't think GW will do this, but it wouldn't surprise me if they finally broke the gold faction rule.
Sure.
And
the Daughters of Slaanesh thing would be the way to, or whatever that you're calling that, Cult of Slaanesh, would be a great way to break would be a great way to go gold. Yeah.
Yeah. And what we're talking about is just to say that, like, Daughters of Cain units can be included in a Slaanesh army. If you do so, change their Grand Alliance keyword from order to chaos, and give them the Slaanesh keyword.
Right. Yep.
And then they just become part of the Slaanesh subfaction. Like, if you are in if you're in Allegiance Slaanesh,
right?
Not like chaos. And then they could be like corrupted, like people that have been corrupted out of Marathi's sway.
Sure. And then I cannot wait to see what the new spell doors are of Slaanesh. Like, that's one of the things that we mentioned at the top, is that, like, one of the great limitations to playing Slaanesh now is, like, you play an Exalted Kipper, you've got a double caster, you got a regular keeper on the back of it, you got another caster, you got spellcasters floating around. They got nothing to do, right? Other than, like, if you take the marked Chaos Sorcerer Lord or something who actually has a useful spell.
Hey, you have endless spells,
right? Like, my point is, within Magic, if you don't take endless spells or you're not playing in the realms, right? There's no, like, you just run out of spells immediately because there just isn't anything. Cacophonic Choir, you almost never have valid targets for, and even if you do, who cares? It's worthless. And there's just a complete, like, Magic is a total whiff. So there are, like, that is the downside. That's why I say, like, Slaanesh is that is where one of the places where Slaanesh feels like playing bad Daughters of Cain. Really, really, really. Because you have, like, no magic, no prayers, no shooting, right? So you don't get to play in any of those phases.
Right.
And yet, like, your units aren't particularly tough. They die just as easy as anything else. What you have right now is speed and a great summoning mechanic. And you can make a lot of hay out of that in an objective-based game, right? Yeah. Like, their strengths play to what you need to succeed in AOS 2, right? Which is mobility to get on objectives and stuff like that. And summoning to refill your units. But nonetheless, it's not enough. So having battalions, having spells, you know what? If they published the book and just literally kept the same thing of, like, command traits and artifacts and added nothing new, I'd be like, fine. I don't need, like, magic land. Well, okay, for Slaanesh, I don't need a set of, like, magic whips and, like, I can think of a ton of inappropriate things to say, but I don't need any of that. Okay.
Ball gags of silence.
Yeah, I don't need any of this, right?
I mean,
all I want is a good spell list and like actual spellcasters besides the Keeper of Secrets. I don't think that's too much to ask. I never need a shooting phase. I'm fine with jettisoning that. It's chaos. I get it.
I mean, you could always just roll Stormcast.
Sure. That's what everybody else is doing.
I hear they have wizards.
Apparently, I'm going to be the last player in North America who doesn't have a Stormcast army of the Sanctum Sanctorum here of the Arcane Brotherhood. But that's fine. I don't care. I'm good.
I'm a Slaanesh player, and that makes me feel dirty having the Stormcast. It's weird.
You should. That should make you feel dirty. That is inappropriate excess. That's cheating in all the wrong ways.
Yeah, I can see the new army having something that does kind of like that really nice warlord trait that gives you the +1 per 10 models. Having these hedonists or whatever, or leather daddies around that will tap that and work that mechanic even more for your spellcasters.
Sure. No, absolutely. There's so much potential for what you could do with this army. And again, just to close out on this real quick, a lot of the people, whenever Slaanesh comes up, people immediately go to the sex stuff, and we've joked about it too a couple times, right? And so people have talked about why that makes them not want to do Slaanesh. That's a really unidimensional thing. Like, I love Slaanesh because I do love the aesthetic. I legitimately thought the Exalted Keeper, like the 4-year-old Exalted Keeper, I think is one of the most beautiful models GW's ever made. I love it. My aesthetic sense is that I love things that are a mix of horror and beauty, right? So things that repel you at the same time they draw you in.
Like me.
Like you, Kenny. You're both horribly disturbing and yet unbelievably gorgeous all at the same time. I don't know how you do it, buddy. There you go. But that's just my sense of aesthetic that I like. And the lore of Slaanesh is fascinating to me because it is the most sort of applicable to, like, civilized society. It is. If there's any chaos god winning in, like, say, current civilization, it ain't the rest of them.
Definitely not Nurgle.
It ain't Nurgle. We've killed that. We've got a whole CDC dedicated to that. Khorne is straight out. Murder rates are way down. Okay, so he's out of here. Like,
who knows what Siege is doing?
Who knows? Like, whatever, man. Like, most scheming. Come on. But excess, hedonism, people seeking after perfection, being greedy. Like, no, that is the world, buddy.
You just described American culture.
So, like, this is not a political statement anyway, but just like, I'm just saying, where civilization flourishes, Slaanesh flourishes. And that's why it's really interesting as a chaos god in that sort of story. And like, I think that there's so much more than that sort of unidimensional, really limited view of Slaanesh, of like the sex stuff. Like, it's fine, whatever, that's okay. I'm not saying I'm not some prude who's against that being an element of it. It's just like, there's so much more interesting things going on than that.
Vince, with you repping the leather daddies, I don't know that anybody would ever make that claim.
I hope not. I hope everybody understands what I like. But the reality is that there's so much more interesting depth that could be written into that narrative, into Slaanesh, of like, as these massive civilizations of order have sprawled out, right? The debauchery, the seeking after like excess, after perfection, after more and more people want, all that. I think that there's so much cool stuff you can do with that. And I for one can't wait to see what that comes out to. The few little bits of story we got so far about Slaanesh have all been absolutely fantastic. So
they've done a great job.
Yeah. And that's like 2 short stories during Malign Portents and a throwaway page in the new core book. And there's some of my favorite stuff. So I can't wait to see a whole book dedicated to it.
Just think about what happens to a Stormcast. He like is seeking that perfection or whatever. It gets maybe just tempted, and then he starts to reforge and lose some of that. Then he has to fight to go back to that. And he's so conflicted.
Yeah.
There's a book there.
Absolutely. Oh, man. Yes.
That addiction,
Sigmar, you want perfection?
Uh-huh. Yes. What are you willing to trade for perfection, buddy? You want to perfect the Stormcast? I can put you in touch with somebody who knows all about perfection. All right. So anyways, I look forward to it. It's going to be a super fun release. I can't wait. I've already booked the time. Like, I know what my 2019 looks like right now, and it's already going to be very full very full of 2 very different takes on on murderous women. I suspect my year will probably begin with Slaanesh and then somewhere end up in Sisters of Battle. 2 very, very different takes on it. I'm going to have to purge myself as a heretic, clearly, around the middle of the year, but there you go. So, Kenny, any final thought you want to share with everybody before we go?
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. There's so many possibilities. I'm just very excited.
Agreed.
Thanks for having me on to talk about this. And thanks for coming on to talk about hobby stuff earlier.
Absolutely. I'll be whenever, like Kenny had me on to talk about some hobby stuff on Combat Phase. So that'll be coming in some future episodes, and hopefully we'll do more. It was super fun, Kenny. Hanging out is always an absolute pleasure, buddy. So that brings us to the end. Seek after your own excess now that the show has come to an end. But as always, we appreciate you watching. And don't forget, next week is the Nova Open post show. So the time will be somewhat flexible. It'll be whenever Pete and Andy wrap up the reveal show. I'll basically I'll march up to my room and Tom and I will do a show. So, okay. So look forward to that. But as always, all right. And with that, there we go. We'll say thank you all for watching. We'll see you next Wednesday.